All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics are Local, but particularly, y'all know if it is the third Friday, y'all know it's time for the Mayor's Forum. So, coming up first, of course, is going to be our brother. It's going to be our brother, the Mayor of Newark, New Jersey, our beloved brother, Mayor Raz J. Baraka. So we're going to kick it with him first. And then, of course, coming up at 7 o'clock, we're going to talk with our brother, Ryan Haygood. He's going to stop through, bring some folks with him. We're going to talk about reparations. He's going to talk about a event he got coming up down in Trenton. So we're going to talk about that. And then, of course, coming up at 8, we're going to get into a conversation with our sister and our beloved sister, Dawn Haynes. She's going to come through and we're going to talk about a bike ride called Light Up the City. So we're going to get into a conversation with her. And perhaps Brother Al Tariq may stop by as well. So we'll talk with him. And then, of course, DJ Rhino, our beloved brother, is going to stop by, talk about the state of hip hop, and we'll get into a conversation around that. Real quick, let me just tell you that the couple of the co-hosts are not with us tonight. Of course, John is in Arizona with some of the Newark finest debaters, so he's out of town. And then, of course, our um, brother Zaid, granddaughter is graduating from high school, so he's not going to be with us. But of course, one of our other co-hosts is here tonight, covering our beloved brother Bashir Akinyele is going to be with us tonight. So peace, B.
Peace, peace, family. Peace, peace, peace. Hotep, Hotep. Honored to be here. Honored to
All
be
right.
here, brother.
So of course, like I said, if it is the third Friday, I know y'all always, folks always say, man, uh, uh, sometimes we take too long, and by the time you get warmed up, you got to leave, and they kind of blame us for that. And I'll be like, no, it's their show, it ain't my show. You know what I mean? They be like, yo, man, y'all should just stop talking when he get hot, man. So anyway, man, it's the man's form. We're gonna give it to our brother. Whatever he want to talk about, we'll jump in when we fit in. What's good?
And it's just happy Juneteenth, happy Father's Day to all everybody. Happy Father's Day. That means a lot. Father's Day, even though it's downplayed most of the time.
Yeah,
Father's Day is important. They've been telling us a long time that we have been absent in our community, and that's just really not been. That's not the data doesn't bear that out.
right.
Actually, black men have, even though our marriage rates are lower than everybody else's, data shows that we, even in untraditional situations, have been involved in our children's lives. We probably need more of that, but it's been the case. And while I advocate that people do get married, it is important that you still be in the lives of your child. That's for sure. And happy Juneteenth. Everybody's turning Juneteenth into a like another regular holiday. They have these flyers with Martin Luther King on it, celebrating Martin Luther King Day, uh, doing the hoochie dance with Martin Luther King on the flyer. You having a Martin Luther King party,
Right,
or they do
right.
the same thing with Juneteenth. And this is the Juneteenth celebration, and you get to do whatever you want. And these folks don't even know what Juneteenth is. And I think a
Right.
lot of that is our fault. Like, we have to take responsibility for the fact that we have not educated the folks in our community and in this country, period, about what Juneteenth really means to us. It's America's second Independence Day, our real Independence Day,
Right.
besides the January 1st. My mother used to have us celebrate January 1st as Emancipation Day because of the proclamation, but Juneteenth as well, June 19th, 1865, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, And what makes it significant is that during Juneteenth, during that time when people finally walked off the plantations, Galveston Bay. So we need to understand what that means. Like, nobody came and said you free and gave them a car, a horse, a mule, some food. Those folks had to walk off just means you walk off the plantation. And that's what happened all over the country. People began walking off the plantation in search of their relatives for the most part. So Juneteenth is a day for families to get together. It's been celebrated for decades where families got together dressed in their finest, laid out the food, to celebrate the fact that we were coming together again in search of our families. Our lost brothers and sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our cousins want to come together. And the families was lost because we were separated on purpose.
Yep.
Right. And
That's
people need to know that. And they celebrate Juneteenth in Mexico. There are towns and cities in Mexico that celebrate Juneteenth because enslaved Africans made their way to Mexico, fleeing Texas at the time, and set up communities in Texas. So they're in Mexico. So there are places in Mexico that celebrate Juneteenth, communities of former enslaved Africans who made their way to Mexico. So Juneteenth is an international holiday. People celebrate that everywhere. So it's not just a day for us to just play the latest hip hop song and dance and act crazy and drink and take a day off from work. It's an opportunity for us to celebrate our family. That's important to us because our families were purposely disrupted, destroyed, broken up from, being traded as slaves to the welfare that told you couldn't have a man in your house if you were in order to get the kind of government assistance you needed. And plus, because the job you had and he had together was not enough to take care of your family and take care of your household, you needed a guaranteed income, like King talked about, on top of the salary you was getting, which in that instance might have been welfare, food stamps, or WIC, or whatever it is they call it. And you couldn't get those things unless your man was absent. So I think it was a purposeful and deliberate way to dismantle households and families in our community. So Juneteenth is a serious holiday, folks, and it's nothing to be played around with. We need to take it seriously, and we need to express it to folks who are celebrating Juneteenth, what it actually means out here. Because there's a lot of celebrations that are going to happen this weekend. You know that.
Yeah.
In fact, after this, I have to go to Patterson to their Juneteenth thing. But there's going to be a mess of Juneteenth celebrations going on. And I want to know how many of them are going to have like African drama, storytelling, discussion about what Juneteenth is. And in some of those Juneteenth, they actually read the Emancipation Proclamation when they celebrated Juneteenth back in the days. They actually read it. That was part of the celebration, the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. It was actually part of because people wanted to know, is it real? Like, let me hear what that say. So that's how folks celebrated it. We have to get back to that. That's all. We have to get back to that.
Yep. It's interesting when you talk about Mexico and how the Africans and then we talk about Mexican and them celebrating it. That's how you get when you go back into Bashir's lineage, Carlos Cortez, right? That's how you get into did you know that, man? Did you know what his slave name was?
I knew it was Carlos.
Yes. Carlos Cortez, no doubt.
And when you saw his father, you saw a straight up Mexican dude, man. He had red skin, the whole nine, man. You know what I mean? And it's funny because when I first met Bashir and he was Carlos Cortez, I was like, what the hell are you knowing a name like that?
We all over the planet, brother. The whole planet belongs to us.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the colonizer, the invaders, man, unfortunately went about, parts of the world enslaving, indigenous people and bringing our people to work the lands and all that intermingling, produced people with names like Cortez or names with Smith or names like Johnson. Because remember, the colonizers, slave owners, the invaders came from many parts of the Western world, many parts of Europe, right? And they brought with them, they forced their culture upon us. So,
Yep.
the English, I mean, if you were enslaved by the English, you had English names. If you were enslaved by the Spaniards, you had Spanish names, If you were enslaved by the Portuguese, you had Portuguese names. You were enslaved by the Dutch, you had Dutch names. So a lot of this history is there. It's written, it's documented, but unfortunately, grossly misunderstood, ignored in some cases. So we just think that an English name, the English were the only enslavers or colonizers, invaders. There were many European groups that were involved in the enslavement of Black people, and hundreds of years before that, the Arabs were enslaving us. All right, so.
Right.
So there's a lot of history that we still need to tap. I like what the mayor said, and peace, Mr. Mayor Hotep.
Yes, sir.
We spent an incredible time today at Weekway High School celebrating Juneteenth. This is our second program celebrating Juneteenth. We started last year. And we did those things you talked about. We inspire folk, but we educated, right? We gave history of Juneteenth. We poured libation to honor our ancestors. We we talked about the greatness of our people. We talked about the enslavement of our people, but the greatness of our people as well. We talked about the Emancipation Proclamation. All of those things were part of the program, and then we closed out strongly with Harambe.
Good.
And for folks who don't know what Harambe means, Harambe is Kiswahili term that means people pulling together.
That's the spot in Mexico, Nacimientos de los Negros, birth of the Blacks.
That's right. Absolutely.
It's the celebration at the border of Texas.
Absolutely.
Town down there, the Muskogee, tribe. That's serious history. Folks don't know that, but
teach. Go ahead, bro.
Juneteenth is real, man. Juneteenth,
no doubt, man. And you know what, Mr. Mayor,
we were celebrating it long before they made it a federal holiday, though.
Absolutely, brother. Let me tell you. I'm glad you brought that up because back in the day, people thought that Juneteenth was an Afrocentric conspiracy holiday. Most people did not believe that Juneteenth was a real holiday. Just like many people didn't believe that we had communities like Black Wall Street, in Oklahoma. They thought that was some type of Afrocentric conspiracy, some type of Afrocentric made up community. All right. And let's keep it real. Let's actually deal with actual facts. The reason why all this stuff kind of sped up, right? All this information was given to the masses of the people is when Trump decided to run for re-election, and he announced it on Juneteenth, right? And said that he was going to Oklahoma. So on social media, people blew that up. They was like, wait a minute, folks who did know about Juneteenth and folks who didn't know about Black Wall Street. They said, oh, he's being disrespectful. He's launching it on Juneteenth. And that's when masses of people, at least on social media, begin to kind of talk about it. And then it reached the streets, the communities, it reached culture, various cultures. And, giving rise to this whole, giving rise to folk in elected office, making it a holiday. But let me back up just a little bit. We also had the George Floyd protests. George Floyd was unfortunately murdered by police in Minneapolis. So that kind of sped a lot of this stuff up, But you're right, Mr. Mayor. For a long time, many of us were celebrating Juneteenth, despite all those, all those folk who say, y'all just bugging, y'all on some Afrocentric stuff. It's not real, So you're absolutely correct, brother. Absolutely.
Well, I hope everybody enjoy their holidays. Enjoy the the holiday day, holy day, Juneteenth for us.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Come
Yes,
on
sir.
out and be a part of all of the festivities that are going on. I know in Newark we have a few things happening. There's thing at Harriet Tubman Square on Monday. There's something right now, and actually at Military Park, WBGO is doing jazz in the park. Councilman Council is having a Juneteenth celebration on Bergen Street on Saturday, all day long, from Hawthorne Place to Lions. So there's a myriad of things going on that you need to get yourself involved in. And if you don't want to go to any of those things, just invite your family over, get in the backyard, and do your thing and talk to people about what Juneteenth is about. It's one thing to have the federal government or the president sign an order saying, Juneteenth is a national holiday. Then there's another thing to actually celebrate it and know what it is and what it's about, besides everybody getting the day off. Everybody, the first 2 years, I think, that we celebrated Juneteenth in Newark City Hall, we had two teach-ins here. We had Sonia Sanchez the first year talking to folks about what Juneteenth meant, and so on and so on. Then we let them go home. So they had to come and be a part of that. Then you get to go home. But we wanted to, and my thinking was, a lot of times we get these days, but we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what it's for. That's important for us to understand and realize that. And statewide, all of the issues that we have statewide, the celebration of Juneteenth should be about us launching an offensive, statewide. Like, what is our offensive, in Juneteenth, right? And because these people set up folks all over the state, they pay people to disrupt the work that we're doing. So the celebration of the holiday is one thing, it's good, and everybody's cool with that now. They're all right with that. But to organize an offensive is something different. To have people actually moving forward, trying to get things accomplished and done for the collective of our community and for the collective of this state is something altogether different. And so they have people set up to disrupt that, to disrupt your family, to disrupt your organization, to disrupt movement, to disrupt unity and collaboration. Because at the basis of community is unity. Like, there's no community without unity. Like, you can't have community without the word unity. And so it's important for us to figure out how to have some kind of unity and not be at each other. People who are supposed to be your natural allies are paid to become your outright enemy based on things that really mean absolutely nothing. And with the advent of social media, there are people coming at you. You don't even know who they are. They could be a 14-year-old, Russian kid in the basement of his house. You know what I'm saying? Saying craziness about you and so forth and so on. I watch even Talib Kweli go at it almost every day with all these people on his social media page. Like, it's just like a concerted, direct, and outright attack on Talib Kweli from people who consider themselves progressive or activists to straight out conservatives. So when conservatives and so-called progressives begin to agree on an individual, then you have to begin to think about what's happening here. Like, so if we in Newark start talking about we want to reduce the rapid rent increases, and so-called activists get on and say the same thing that the conservatives who don't want that to happen say, then you have to think to yourself, who are those people who are saying they're activists, but they're saying the same exact things that conservatives are saying about rent increase? Who are these people who are supposed to be activists who agree in having a unified police state as opposed to a unified community, right? Who are these people who attack, local activists and longtime, folks in our community who have given up their time, their value, their life, their family to improve the lives of young people, of community folks, and so forth and so on? Who are those people that attack them under the guise of being more socially radical or more politically progressive than that person? Those people have to be questioned, because at the end of the day, if you spend any of your time of the fight fighting people who are not your enemy, you allowing your enemy more time for reprieve to gather themselves to attack us all. Right? That's what you're doing, because like your energy, because we are in a lopsided fight here. Your energy should be spent attacking our enemies, not people who are our allies.
That's right.
Even if you disagree with people who are your allies and you have the right to do that, there's a principled way to make that happen and disagree, so it does not create confusion in our community and divisiveness and hatred and evilness and murder, because in the 60s and 70s, it turned out to be murder, you know. And that was the plan. The plan is that, because really, if they can't stop you from talking or saying what you want to say, then the next step has to be to stop you from influencing other people. So if I can't stop you from, I can't stop my shit from putting all this stuff out all the damn time. I have to make sure that the stuff that he puts out has no impact. Right. Or the things that he say is not relevant to people. That they can't, you know, that they're not listening, that he doesn't attach them, they don't attach themselves to the things that he's saying, the rhetoric that he's talking about, or being educated on or influenced by his words. And so we attack him and denigrate and humiliate his standing, so that when he does say something, it has less strength than it would if he was doing it from a place, you know, that was not under attack, right? So if I put him under attack, he's so busy backing up, backpedaling, trying to fight those folks that are closest to him, that he can't hit the target that is emitting all of this stuff to try to disrupt us. So when you catch people like that are doing that, you have to question yourself: what are their motives?
That's right.
Why are they doing this? Like, who benefits? And that's what I ask myself: who benefits from this? Like, when I see things, I say, who is the beneficiary of this behavior? Right? Who benefits from this behavior? Is it our community? Is it that specific individual? Is it our larger enemies? Who benefits from this activity? Period. Who benefits?
Good question, Mr. Mayor.
And if you answer the question, who benefits, then it's easier for you to discern between who is friend and who is foe.
Great. Absolutely.
And we just have to be clear. We just have certain clarity on that. Because as we lift up Juneteenth, right, you got a whole bunch of people rallying around the fact that they're stopping us from having events in places. And I get that. But they've been stopping you from doing a whole bunch of other things, and you have not rallied around that. And the question becomes, why not? And what has become important to us, even in our time of celebration? What's important for us? What do we want here? What do we want? We know what we don't want, but what do we want? Which is why I wrote that point. What do we want, right? What are we actually fighting for here?
Right.
What is it that we need out of this, right? In a place that celebrates Juneteenth but refuses to say reparations.
Go ahead. Hell, refuses to say the Holocaust, the Black Holocaust.
In the state that recognizes your enslavement but refuses to recognize its remedy.
Go ahead.
Right. So
right.
That right there is a problem. That's the greatest contradiction of it all. Right. Wow. That's what puts these folks in New Jersey on the spot, because they are supposedly the most progressive. So you recognize my pain, but you oppose to my joy.
Right.
That in and of itself is cause for. That's why Brother Ryan Haygood later on the show is having this reparations council. I'm getting all kind of press inquiries that I haven't responded to about why we're doing this and why it's important. And the only person I talked to about it was my man Michael Hill on WBGO. The idea, ultimately, why people are afraid is because they know they're wrong. They're smart enough to know they're wrong, and so if you're wrong, if you're admitting guilt, then there has to be repair. There has to be restitution.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be held accountable, right? And so the accountability part is not easy.
Right.
And folks don't want to deal with that or handle that. They want to be able to pass that down to somebody else because it's a difficult question. And the remedy is a difficult remedy.
But it must happen.
Oh, absolutely. 100,000% must happen.
It must happen.
And we have to, because if you say reparations, the base of reparations is repair.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So how are we repaired for 250 years of chattel slavery?
Right.
How are we repaired for the last state in the northern part of this union to make slavery illegal?
Right.
How are we prepared for redlining? How are we prepared for segregation and poor education? How are we prepared for deliberate unemployment, deliberate underdevelopment in our community? How are we prepared for the over incarceration of young people in our community, in our neighborhood? How are we prepared for the direct and immediate onslaught on our families? Right? How are we prepared for Emmett Till and 4,000 lynchings? And we're prepared for all of the people who were shot and murdered by police in the middle of the street, or strangled to death for cigarettes, or Amadou Diallo 40-something times, or Abner Louima, who got a broom handle shoved up his rectum. How are you prepared for who repairs us for Philip Purnell?
Right.
Right. How do we get repaired for that? Who repaired their mama for that? For all of the kids whose communities were flooded purposely with drugs,
right.
whose kids became addicted to drugs, and the other kids got murdered selling drugs. Who repairs us for that? Who repairs us for the legalization of weed and marijuana after people are doing dozens of years in prison, wasting their life away for selling a drug that's now legal?
Yep.
Right? Who's going to repair us for that? The fact is there's no number that would suffice for reparation for the things that we've encountered. And because there's no number, the number is so imaginary, it's so like way up here that they can't fathom it. It's easier not to deal with, because I think like it gives them, like, it's almost like a migraine that never ends. Like, this is going to be too difficult, because if it was me, what would I ask for? If they flipped it, they say, if it was me, what would I demand? What would make me whole? And like Paul Robeson says, the power in our demand is that what we're asking for is right. Is right. That's the power of it, because it can't be denied.
That's right. That's right.
It's undeniable. And any human being in the situation that we're in, the kind of repair what kind of repair did Europe get after World War II? What kind of repair did Europe get after World War I? What kind of repair did Japanese get for being put in internment camps? Right? What kind of repair the natives are getting, even for the removal of their property and their land and the genocide of their communities? Right? They get at least a little bit of something. It might not be sufficient. It might not be sufficient, but they're getting a little bit of something. But when it comes to us, we get zero.
We've gotten zero.
Yeah.
Not even an apology, Mr. Mayor.
Zero.
Not even an apology. An apology.
So
for the slavery.
And so that's too big for people's heads, like for them to think about. It's too much. It's too much.
And that might just be it, man. Why they don't even want to go there, because like you said, on the last man's forum, the number is too damn infinite, right? Yeah. And they can't even imagine that, because like you were saying, America would go broke just trying to figure out, how do we pay these people for all that we've done? Not only the chattel slavery, but think about, one of the things I heard Obama say, before he ran, when he was campaigning, he was talking about the parade of horrors that was done to Black people, right? I mean, just a parade of horrors. I mean, the rapes, the murders.
That's right.
The landscaping. I mean, all of the stuff that was done. How do because I mean, everybody know, criminal and civil law. There's only two pieces. You
That's
either
right.
criminal or civil. And how do you make us whole? I think you're right.
Yeah. How do you make us whole?
Yeah.
And how do you can't excuse it?
Yeah.
It's inexcusable, right? It's inexcusable. If we had hearings, truth and reconciliation, like they do in other countries, if we had these kinds of things, there will be a lot of people that will have to pay. Banks, insurance companies, shipping industries,
Schools.
all of these people would have to pay. Whole institutions,
Yeah.
The FHA and FHMA and all these other people would have to pay. They would have to pay. They would have to give us so much, because everybody was complicit in the private and public sector. So not just like the private banks, but public policy. Not just insurance companies that insured slaves as property, but the agencies and the boards that allowed that to happen. The judges, that meted unfair sentences on community, that sentenced people to death. How do we get repaired for the whole communities that were leveled?
Yeah.
For Greenwood and Rosewood and Seneca Valley in New York City.
Right.
For Freedmen's Village in Virginia that sat where Arlington Cemetery is now.
Right.
Like how do we for all those communities that's gone, and for communities that still exist that withstood all of that. There's some right now in Cape May, down there in Cape May County. there's communities now that exist that were created right after the Civil War that still exist today.
Yeah.
Today. Like who recognizes these people, right? And I mean, it's just really an awful thing to really think about, and it really makes you feel like a chump, because at the end of the day, we got all of these people in all these places and all these activists. They so mean, so tough, so radical, and all these gangsters in the street that'll shoot their mama's cousin's brother, and we can't come together and make nothing happen for us in a collective way no more, short of the 1964 and 1965 Public and Common Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act. The last thing we got from these fools, 1964 and 1965. All the other stuff, whatever it is, to me, on a wide scale, because when in World War II, after they did this, these programs, WPA and all of this stuff that talked about, we didn't get that. We didn't benefit from none of that.
Right.
That's right.
We didn't benefit from none of that. We didn't have no Marshall Plan here in the U.S. There was no New Deal for us because we didn't even have the old deal. We just had a rotten deal. And so at the end of the day, like, people get upset when you talk like this. They think it's radical talk, but it's not even radical.
Go ahead.
To say, look, I want to be able to be paid for the fact that you stopped me from being able to compete at the same level that you compete at. I want to be able to be supported. And then we're supposed to bow down to you because you assisting us in getting out of a hole that you pushed us in the first place.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't even be in a hole if you didn't push us in it. Is if you want to make good by us, then help us get out of this damn hole.
Yep.
And don't ask us to be grateful to you because you helped us get out of a hole that you dug and pushed us in.
That's peace. That's peace right there. Absolutely. Go ahead.
That's it. And they want you to walk around thankful and grateful for what they have done for us and our families, the jobs they've given you. And we walk around this place like, we didn't walk off the plantation. Some of us are running. Are running to it still. We still have not gotten off the plantation, and many enslaved folks couldn't leave the plantation because the plantation was the sense of the source of their employment.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
It was the source of their food. because it was the source. So the relationship changed from master slave to owner, sharecropper, worker, whatever, laborer. So that relationship still exists today. So there's some people who will not leave because their relationship with the plantation is one of owner and laborer. And they continue to feed your family. So you think you owe them a debt of gratitude because they feed your family, so much so that you will become a pawn to destroy your own folks to keep the relationship on that plantation.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Instead of taking the risk, because it's a risk, and building your own farm.
Right.
And history has proven to us that we've built our own stuff right out of Civil War, man. We stood up schools, we stood up banks, we stood up businesses, we stood up all kind of things. Everything we needed, we stood it up. We stood up stores, everything we needed. We built our community. They promised us 40 acres and a mule. We never got it. So we built our own neighborhoods.
Yep.
You know, we established our own financial institutions. We did all of this on our own. They wouldn't let us in their churches. We built our own church. Absalom Jones and all of them folks, we built our own church. They wouldn't let us in their fraternities. We started Alpha Phi Alpha and Omega Phi Psi Phi and Alpha Kappa Alpha. You know, these are men in Alpha Phi Alpha who used to work in the kitchen, taking care of people in white fraternities who were not allowed in those fraternities, but they used to work in their kitchen cleaning up, who decided to get the hell out of there and start their own fraternity and get away from these people at Cornell University, upstate New York, in 1906. You mean if they could do that in 1906, you can't get your black self up and do something in 2023 for yourself? That makes no sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah. And we did it many times without any rallies or demonstrations.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We had convention. We had a whole convention movement where we come together and convene and talk about.
That's right.
What we need to do.
Right.
That's what we need to do. Out of that convention movement, what the Niagara movement came out of that, and out of the Niagara movement came the NAACP.
Right.
That whole convention movement period is what we began to organize ourselves in very dangerous times.
Right.
Because you talking about people arresting you, locking you up, hitting you over the head, those people can get dragged out of there and thrown over a light pole.
Right. Yep. House burned down, churches burned down.
You know, over a light pole, brother. They'll throw you over a light pole and drag your body
light pole, bridges,
and sell your fingers and ears and toes as souvenirs.
Absolutely.
Put your burnt body on a card and sell it to people at picnics.
Absolutely, brother. You know, Mr. Mayor, you know, you come out of the activist community, right? What is it that, and we're talking about Juneteenth and what actions should we be taking, proactive actions we should be taking, all right, to remedy, right, or repair the damages done by the enslavement of Black people in America, or I like to call it, you know, the Black Holocaust, right, the Ma'afa, right?
Yeah.
What is it that Black people need to do, or what you would recommend we do as a community, just locally? I'm not talking about something nationally. I'm just saying locally, right here in the city of Newark, Brick City. What could we do to address the issues like a reparation, or the issues like picking up garbage, you know, on your block, or the issue of getting involved in the Newark public schools, right? What do we need to do?
Well, I mean, Kwame Ture said we need to be in an organization. Stokely Carmichael, that's the first step. You need to be a part of something. You need to be a part of organization, and not just anything, you know, because there are people out here who will lead you into the water,
right?
Or like lead you to the slaughter. You know, so at the end of the day, you have to be a part of something, and you have to study. That's important. If you don't study and understand what's going on, you can't form weapons to protect yourself or create an offensive against what's going on, because you don't know what's going on anyway. You have to read, you have to study, you have to know this information. That's number one. And you have to be a part of an organization. And whatever it is you guys are into specifically, you have to make sure that your organization can unite with other organizations around larger issues. So you create a united front. So it's important for you, like you might be into, like, I want to make sure the schools are doing what they're supposed to do. So you got an organization that's designed to put pressure on the school board and the school system to do what's right. But just because you do that does not mean that you cannot unite with larger organizations around issues like reparations, or issues around desegregating schools, or issues that are broader issues. In fact, we need you to be a part of larger kind of convenings in order that we begin to push this movement forward. The fact that we're isolated into these small little groups and enclaves, that is secularized in our community, weakens our ability to push for what it is that we need to push for statewide and nationally that affects our community. We think that our issues are the only issues, the most important issues, and everybody else is wasting their time. The only time that's being wasted is the time we don't spend getting together.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
deep. That's peace right there. Proper education always corrects errors. Go ahead, Mr. Man.
And any time that we spend not trying to be together, that's the waste of our time.
Wow. Wow.
And we always have to be together, right? We have to figure that out. But throw our egos down, the personal differences, the foolishness, some of us getting paid as mercenaries, all this kind of foolishness that are used to disrupt our unity is a problem.
Mr. Man,
is a problem.
Absolutely.
Because we have a time, we are at a period now in New Jersey and even in this country to launch an offensive, a serious offensive here around all of the issues that are important to us. We are look, these people promised us all of this money after George Floyd. All this, I see National Action Network and them organizing, trying to ask these people, okay, what happened to those funds that everybody had set aside? Billions of dollars for all these things just magically disappeared. So where is that, right? And so we have a chance now to mass an offensive. Most of the major cities in America are led by Black people.
Yep.
Dallas, San Francisco, Chicago, New York. You understand what I'm saying? All over the place. Philadelphia, New Orleans. It's led by us. So that's that. And then even statewide, there's a statewide presence of Black organizations and folks that are seeking and gaining power. Westmore in Maryland, right, is an example of what can be done, out of PG County. So all this stuff, we have an opportunity to mass an offensive. All of these organizations that exist that have been fighting for things statewide and nationally are getting a lot more press, a lot more social media content. Look at Tamika Riley and all those other folks. People know them like they know rappers.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? These people are becoming more and more and more relevant to more and more people around the country. Now is the time to launch a mass offensive. Now. Yeah. And the way, and because I see that means our enemy sees it too. Yeah. And because they see it too, that means they work as hard. So they're not going to work as hard if they don't think you have the ability to get to the next level.
Well, absolutely. Well, Mr. Mayor, we're giving inspiration and information. So for some of our listeners, you mentioned a great ancestor by the name of Kwame Ture, right? AKA Stokely Carmichael. For many people tuning in right now, Mr. Mayor, they never heard of Kwame Ture at all. They don't know who he is. You mentioned him, and he was a great leader, a great organizer, a great speaker, but a great organizer. I'm gonna stress that one more time. Not only was he a great speaker, he was a great organizer. So if you could, Mr. Mayor, can you just kind of give some information on this brother, Kwame Ture?
Oh yeah, Stokely Carmichael. You should go watch Eyes on the Prize. Stokely Carmichael, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Very, very, very active in the civil rights struggle was a youth during the time when King was organizing and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and all of those organizations were pushing and fighting for civil rights. You had a more left and more radical version of that, which was being pushed by Stokely Carmichael at the time, who once said, you better listen to King or you got to deal with me.
Mm.
And so he was more sophisticated then than most of us who are now, who've read all of that stuff and still don't understand what he was doing and what he was talking about.
That's right.
And so he understood how the movement was broad and wide, and that we were all together, and that we had to use one in one time and the other time. That at one point, one part of the movement becomes more important. Another point, another part becomes more important, right? That you need pressure and then you need negotiation. You need pressure and then you need negotiation. You need pressure and then you need negotiation. In any war, there's fight and then there is the negotiation. They might have talked between Russia and Ukraine at least 4 or 5 times while they still bombing each other. Right. So at the end of the day, we have to understand we have to be as sophisticated as that when we start talking about our struggle, our historic struggle in this country. Like there has to be room for us to be able to do that. And Stokely Carmichael understood that, and he organized very well and very efficiently, organizing these young people to do these sit-ins, to do these voter registrations in very dangerous parts of the country, in Lowndes County, Alabama, and different parts of Mississippi, where they said segregation now and segregation forever, right? These are people that were shooting people, where people were disappearing. Even white people was disappearing. You know what I mean? Goodman and Schwerner disappeared. Goodman Schwerner disappeared. Viola Luiso disappeared, murdered. These are white civil rights activists murdered. So they know they'll get you. So at the end of the day, he organized during that time, and then later created his own organization later on in his life, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, and internationalized what he thought was happening in terms of civil rights, and began to do what Malcolm came. He really kind of pushed everybody towards internationalism, towards this fight for bringing our injustices to the UN and all of these things. Stokely Carmichael changed his name to Kwame Ture, internationalized his struggle. Start talking about African socialism and all these other kinds of issues, attacking capitalism altogether. That's what Kwame Ture did. And I know when you start talking like that, people get afraid, but this is our brother. And it's important for us to read and study what he said and not listen to other people who denounce him because of things that he embraced.
Right.
We have to read him for ourselves and study him for ourselves and make a decision for ourselves about what is right for our brother who was in the trenches with us and not our enemies who was not in the trenches with us. And that's how you make the judgment. It's not a hard judgment to make, right? If somebody was in the trenches with you, they get the benefit of the doubt automatically.
That's peace, brother. That's peace. That's awesome.
Automatically.
It's funny, man, that you would say that, right? Because one of the things, Mitty and I go back and forth with, he would always say all the time, he said, if Pop was here, man, Pop would be in the trenches with us, and that's true. Because when you think about damn near every march we did in the street, right? Remember the last
Absolutely.
march downtown. Remember, he was in the trenches.
That's right.
And so Mitty's correct. And when you say that, man, you're right.
Right.
These brothers were in the trenches, man, and they stayed on their post right up until the end.
That's it. They made sacrifices, personal and family sacrifices for us as a collective, and so they get the benefit of the doubt. And I don't care what they say on 4 or 7 or 2 or what book or what commentator or what Negro they bring out the woodwork. We have to embrace and celebrate them, even if we don't agree with everything they said. Damn it, they get the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to defend them to the end. And we're not going to let you make us say anything negative about them publicly to nobody, or especially to our own children.
That's peace, Mr. Mayor. I'm so glad that you said these things, my brother, because I got all my notes down. One of the things that is interesting, you said about organizing and studying, right? Or a part of organizing is to study. You know, I'm a history and Africana studies, Black studies teacher, and I always recommend people to study always. You know, not just in my classroom, but in our community. And I say all that to say this, that we go back to Juneteenth. There were folk on social media promoting this thing about Juneteenth is a white man's holiday.
That's
And
so
so we had to correct that. We provided all the information.
yeah, but you don't even know who those people are, man.
No
That's
doubt, absolutely.
yeah.
But the people, but there
Yeah,
was,
they could
but
be Klansmen with black faces on their social media site.
absolutely, absolutely. But the thing is, this was troubling, Mr. Mayor, is the fact that some of my family and friends, right,
Yeah,
were buying
yeah,
into that.
for
You see,
sure, for sure, for
right?
sure.
So we had to provide a correct analysis and correct information, right? So so our people won't be deceived and misinformed about the true history, the I won't say true, the factual history of Juneteenth. After we did that, folk were like, "Wow, I didn't know that we initiated." Right? I thought the white man did it, like the person who put the post out said.
Yeah,
You see?
yeah, they did that on purpose. Just like the
Absolutely.
commentator, I got to get out of here in a minute. I got to go to Patterson. Just like the commentator during the Super Bowl when the two black quarterbacks, the Eagles and the Chiefs was playing. The commentator say, "This is. I know Abraham Lincoln would be extremely happy about this." Like for him to even say that, like
Yeah.
folks don't even know how racist that is. What he said, right? Because we got two black quarterbacks in the league playing exceptionally against one another. Like, because in his mind, Abraham Lincoln is our father.
Go ahead, brother. Teach.
That's like, oh, their father would be proud.
Abraham
Lincoln freed us. So we believe the Emancipation Proclamation is a document that they created. They don't know pressure was being put on them people like Frederick Douglass, who was a runaway slave who came there to sit and witness, because most black people didn't believe he would sign that document in the first place. They had watch parties all over the place, watching, listening to the radio, trying to figure out what was going on to see if he actually signed the Emancipation Proclamation. The word got out that the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. That's why it took so long to get to Texas. But at the end of the day, people began to understand that there was a chance that freedom was possible. And then even then, if you read W.E.B. Du Bois' Black Reconstruction, he tells you clearly that the end of slavery had really nothing to do with that document. Slavery began to end because black people stopped working.
Right.
They stopped working. They slowed down. They didn't pick the cotton. They walked off their plantation. And when the word got out that emancipation had come, people walked away from their plantation.
No doubt, absolutely. But Mr. Mayor, before you go, brother, we got to give a strong shout out, big shout out, all right? Big shout out to this ancestor who actually initiated the reparations movement that we know today. And that's our Queen Mother Moore. We got to give a big shout out. Ibaye, Ashe to the ancestor, Queen Mother Moore, right? Because like you said, we got people who are putting out reparations material, but very divisive. And when you question them about the, like, who started, when you ask a single question, who started the reparation movement? I don't know.
Well, brother, we know, and that's important.
Absolutely.
We need to make sure everybody else know.
Mr. Mayor, man, I wish we had more time with you, brother.
Yes, I always have a good time.
I got before you leave, a young brother asked, he said, man, he appreciated your comments on Tupac. He said, his birthday is Monday.
Yes, sir.
And he asked, he said, man, how should the real heads who get it, be celebrating Pac's birthday and not let them commercialize it?
That's good stuff, man. I would say first we got to play his music and kind of dissect it. I think it's important for us to dissect some of the things he was talking about and, make people understand what those lyrics meant. And I think we need to talk about who Tupac is, who he was, his life, his family, and what gave birth to him, right? Which is more important than many other things. Like, well, talk about Afeni Shakur, talk about the Panther 21, have celebrations where we talk about Tupac as a whole person, right? Not just as a caricature of some record executive, right? We have to talk about Tupac as a human being, as a Black man in the time that he came out, right? And just make him a whole person. Like, I would listen to his music and have full discussions. Like, have like, we have those chats on Facebook, those chats on Instagram, social media, group meet chats, and talk about Tupac, the life and times, the man, the legend, Tupac Shakur, and the Panther 21 and the Afeni Shakur, because you can't separate the times from the man from the times that created the man. So,
well, brother, we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, brother, for real.
There's never enough time, man. We appreciate, love you, my brother. Thank you for being real strong.
No doubt. And Mr. Mayor, you and I got liberated names. Our brothers, we still waiting for Brother Ed Ryan to get his liberated name, bro.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
All right, Mr. Mayor. And wait for you, brother E.
Yeah.
We gotta work on that one day. But I like getting back to Mayor Baraka, right? The mayor of the city of Newark, New Jersey, and the mayor of the city of Newark in New Jersey. I think what he said was on point.
Yeah.
He comes out of the activist community. So, when we get a chance to talk to him, he can share some of those experiences as an activist with the listening audience, because you never know, the show may influence somebody to actually go and study,
right?
Pick up a book and study, read, you know what I'm saying? So they can understand how to organize, right? How to organize. Or if they're already organizing, they read and they get a proper analysis of the conditions that exist in our community. Like he said, if you're going to fight for education, then you need to become well studied in the issues surrounding education, right? If you're gonna talk about, political prisoners, then you need to become well studied in political prisoners. If you're gonna organize around unity without uniformity, then study, what does that mean? What does unity without uniformity mean? So you won't become divisive, right?
Right.
A lot of folk out here that's divisive, extremely divisive, right? They think, attacking somebody on social media or in the community is going to give me some sort of points with the masses of the people. I'm going to be the leader, right?
That's true.
I'm going to be the leader now. Everybody else is going to follow. Everybody's going to follow me because, I'm going to show how that other leader is not cool. They're not down. They're not this. They're not that.
But that's true. That's exactly what people think, right? The mayor was talking about unity. He was talking about, when you struggling, right? Remember, he said on one level you had Ukraine who was bombing Russia and them bombing at the same time, but on the other end they was negotiating.
Right.
We don't have that level of sophistication anymore. Right. If I don't like you and I disagree with you, well, I just don't like you and disagree with you. I'm not trying to negotiate with you to find some sort of commonality or some sort of middle of the road to find peace for our people. We just don't do that.
Right.
Right. And that was one of the statements Malcolm made when he said that, he told us don't lose sight of the goal. Right. He said, don't lose that, But what happens is that once we lose sight of the goal, Malcolm said we fall out with each other. Right. But that's what's happening in our communities, B. I mean, everybody wants to be the leader.
Right.
And like the mayor said, you join the wrong organization, these people lead you in the wrong direction.
Right.
And that is because the majority of our people, according to what's the professor at Howard University, the brother who's a member of your organization,
Dr. Greg Carr.
Brother Carr, he says, it is because we have a low level of information,
Right.
right? Most of us have not really studied, have not read the books that the mayor is referring to.
Right.
When he talks about Kwame Ture, most of us have not read those books, and most of us certainly don't know a third of what it is that you know, B. So that's why most of the time when you talking, a lot of us should just be quiet,
Oh, brother. Wow.
right? Because I mean, the fact is that that knowledge is there, but the problem is the majority of our people, like you said, I mean, we go on social media and we believe that what we hear on social media is the fact, right?
Right.
When that is not the fact,
Right.
right? That's why you were saying that you had to go and you had to break it down and give folks the facts, the actual knowledge as it related to Juneteenth. Why?
Absolutely.
Because some people would put that falsity out there, and then what happens? Our people begin to buy into it,
That's right.
and that's exactly where we are at this point. B, we're buying into the false knowledge.
Mm. I mean, hook, line, and sinker, brother.
Yeah.
That's
And it becomes difficult, right? That therein lies why you have people who say, well, let's don't teach the knowledge of self to young people. Let's don't teach the true history, right, of African people. In fact, let's don't even refer to them as African people.
right.
Right?
Right.
Therein lies the struggle you were talking to me about when you said that you got an Arab scholar who's going around trying to put out some falsities about Kemet. I
That's right.
mean, but who does that? And like the man said, you have to ask the question: who does that benefit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It most certainly doesn't benefit people who've already been hurt with those lies.
Well, I'm clear on the fact who will benefit is benefiting white supremacy. It's benefiting Arab racism. And it's being all of that is being used to keep keep black people as permanent
Yeah.
as a permanent underclass. That's what that's all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm clear on it, big brother. I'm clear. Hopefully, we have some time to talk about more of that. If I could squeeze a brother in, who actually led the protest. He called for us to come together in a collective to protest Dr. Sahih Awaz. That's what we're talking about. He's considered one of the world's greatest Egyptologists, right? But he's putting out, I mean, gross misinformation on the factual history of Kemet, which is that Kemet is a black. Kemet was started by black people, by African people, right? So he's trying to, he's trying to negate that. He just mentions, there were some black people involved in Kemet, but the majority of the people involved in Kemet, the major players, right, are Europeans and Arabs. He even takes Kemet, Egypt, out of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
He was a wild boy, but he reflects many white supremacists um, through the decades, through the centuries that said the same thing.
Yeah.
But they all give credit. They say the foundation of the modern world, right, is Kemet, Egypt.
Right.
They all say that,
Right.
but they say that the people who created this great civilization were white people or Arabs.
Incredible, man. We definitely got to delve into that and begin to talk about that whole piece and lay it out, man. And even if we can reach that brother and bring him on, man, and have
Oh,
some
absolutely,
conversation, man.
absolutely, brother.
Because we've got to have that kind of pushback, and if we don't develop that pushback, man, what happens is that lie is allowed to exist, man. You know
Yeah,
what
and these lies are existing, and in so many ways. Whether you, I mean, for example, in the school system, those lies are being allowed to exist, right?
Mhm.
In the public schools, charter schools, private schools, right?
Mhm.
People are matriculating through these schools, not knowing that Black people had a history before slavery, right?
Yep.
Seriously, right? Our people people are matriculating, especially our people matriculating through these school systems, not knowing that we are the fathers and mothers of mathematics and science, philosophy, religion, architecture, government, um, you know, theology, right? We don't know these things. All we know is slavery, brother. And
Yeah.
I've been teaching for nearly 30 years,
Yeah.
right? And when students come to my class, right, and I do lessons on the history of Black people before slavery, they say, Brother Akinyele, some of them call me Brother Hotep. They say, I did not know this history existed. So how do we build from that? See, yeah, kids can read, write, do mathematics, but how is that all connecting to what? Nation building,
Yeah.
institutional building in our community? It can't connect because we don't see ourselves being the fathers and mothers of mathematics. You see?
Well, we definitely got to delve into that, brother.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely, brother.
So let's I saw Ryan. I know he popped on, popped off.
All right.
So see if we can introduce our sister. How you pronounce your name? My sister, you muted, by the way. You know,
Hello, I am Atalaya
Italia.
Armstrong.
Okay. How you doing, Italia? I
I'm well.
saw Ryan, he had popped on. I know you guys are supposed to come on. We're going to talk about reparations in this rally that's coming up
Yes.
this week as it relates to that. So why don't we just go ahead and let you get it started? We'll wait for Ryan to come back.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for inviting me on to talk about reparations. I'm fairly new to the reparations fight. I would say I'm about 10 to 15 years in, and it started basically with me researching myself. um, because as a descendant of the institution of slavery, I lost we lost our identity, and so a good group of us have to go and find out who we are, and I did that. So I'm happy to say that I'm a mix of a little bit of everything. I'm Nigerian, a Ghanaian. Um, I have some Indian background as well as a white background. Um, so it's a hodgepodge of ethnicities. Um, so that's how I got my start, and I've been running with it ever since. I've heard you guys speak a little bit about us, just focusing on slavery, and I agree with that. And I think one of the major reasons why we are focusing so much on slavery is because that's where we were interrupted, and it
Mm,
has never been dealt with ever. Not the trauma, not the losses, not the deaths, any of it. And as a descendant of that institution, I often feel like people want to skip over that part because it's a horrible thing to deal with. But we really essentially can't move forward if we don't deal with that interruption. Hey, Ryan,
Hey, Italia, it's good to see you.
good
Hey,
to see
brother.
you.
Hey, brother Bashir. How are you?
So I'm happy that we're coming together to rally around this issue. I have some concerns, but I'll let Ryan go ahead and
Mm-mm.
talk a little bit.
You look. You want to look? I'm not going to interrupt your flow, Italia. You do your thing. Do your thing.
Okay, well, all right. I'll go ahead and just kick off
Oh,
what I wanted to talk about.
you know what?
Unless you have specific questions.
Oh, you know what, sister? I just wanted to say I was muted. I wanted to say that I'm glad you brought that up about the enslavement of Black people. The thing is, we were talking about history of Black people before slavery, but when we actually examine the history of or study, analyze the history of Black people in slavery, even that is grossly there's a gross level of miseducation about that as well,
Mm.
right? We're not looking at our enslavement as our Holocaust,
Right.
all right? We use in the conscious community, we call it the Ma'afa, right? It's Kiswahili for the great scattering of our people, right? The forced scattering of our people. And so we don't really delve deep into it like that. And in my classroom, at least in my little classroom at Weequahic High School, we from Newark, say Weequahic, I said that during slavery, we couldn't not just read and write, we couldn't even bear our own African names. We couldn't even, it was illegal for us to even speak our own African languages. And to this day, that's why the masses of Black people, I'm talking about African Americans whose ancestors started in 1619, who were brought here in 1619 as enslaved Black people. To this day, we can't speak a lick of our own mother tongue. Now, other cultures are coming into this country who don't have that, who never experienced that. They can speak their mother tongue and not have a damn cross burned on their lawn. Right? You understand what I'm saying?
I absolutely do.
You know,
And I really,
somebody not coming to your house, pulling out your children, right? I mean, pulling out your grandmother, your grandfather, right? And putting a rope over a tree and lynching all of them right before your eyes.
right,
They don't know nothing
trauma.
about that.
No.
Yeah, that's trauma. They don't know nothing about that. You see? So when you talk about trauma, you talking about, yes, I try to make it, and you already know this, I try to make it explicitly clear how horrific the enslavement of Black people was in this country. All right. Now that's one level. And then we talk about the economics. All right. But I don't want to hog the mic. When you said that, I said, wow, she's on point. We got to really talk about these things. We got to let our people know, I mean, with clear understanding how horrific the enslavement of Black people was in this country. I'm not talking about some far off land. I'm talking about right here in what we now call the United States of America.
Exactly. We lost a lot. We lost a lot.
You know what I love about this is we're having this conversation, and what I find really sort of painful about the reality of being Black in this country is, you know, folks get real comfortable talking about the challenges we face, and we're now emerging from the COVID-19 pandemic. You all know that was the leading cause of death of Black people in 2020. We're in the throes of the police brutality pandemic. And I think folks get very comfortable with a narrative of loss related to Black people. But when we talk about repairing harm, when we talk about reparations, they say, no, I was more comfortable talking about the loss. When you want to talk about repair, when you want to say the word reparations, then folks get very uncomfortable, start moving in their seats, and they want to return to the loss. And so for them, the Black existence is best characterized by a harm reduction strategy. But Brother Bashir, I love your point, because I think what we are to do as lovers of Black people, as Black people, is to think about how do we build a world starting here in New Jersey where Black people win. It's not just that we want to stop being harmed, is that we want to win. And in New Jersey, people are winning. New Jersey is one of the wealthiest states in the country, as you all know. But that real prosperity exists alongside some real punishing poverty, which is why we have this tremendous racial wealth gap, where the median net wealth, right, for white families, $322,000. That's among the highest in the country. But for Black people, it's $17,700. We designed it that way in slavery. But when we talk about repairing that harm, we talk about reparations, folks get really uncomfortable. So that's why I think this conversation is so important, centering us, not just in an effort to reduce harm or abate the harm or stop the harm, but no, like, let's create a New Jersey, a new New Jersey, where we as Black people win. And that's why I think reparations is essential as we think about the way forward in the state.
Absolutely.
Let me just say this. Ryan, you on point. The mayor just said before you came on, he said these people refuse to say reparations.
Yeah.
Right? He said absolutely refuse to say it.
Yeah.
And we have to get them to the point where they have to say reparations.
Yeah. I mean, you remember, Brother Ed, it was in 2019 when we were on the show then. We had Nicole Hannah-Jones coming to NJ PAC,
And then we did a bunch of rallies. Atalaya spoke at them, and the goal, then we stood with Black legislators to get a bill introduced in New Jersey that would create a New Jersey Reparations Commission. Now, this was 2019. This was ahead of California. It was really ahead of about 40 or more cities that have done something on reparations. At that time, we were ahead of the curve in New Jersey in getting a reparations commission introduced. Almost every Black elected official in New Jersey supported it. There was some support from non-Black elected officials. But that bill, though it was introduced 3 years ago with lots of support from across the state, it hasn't moved because our state is segregated at the top, right? So the head of the Senate is a white man. The head of the Assembly is a white man. The governor is a white man. And in one of our meetings with the head of the Assembly, Craig Coughlin, to your point, Ed, he said, we met with him. We said, look, this bill is introduced. We're in the throes of COVID and the George Floyd police brutality pandemic. The way to meet the moment now is to move this bill to finally have the conversations we've been unwilling to have around reparations. And he said back to us, he said, look, the word reparations, Italia, it just unsettles people. He said, if you would call it something else, a Black Lives Matter task force or a racial equity or a wealth gap or some other name, I'd support it. And we said back to him, listen, Speaker Craig Coughlin, the fact that we're asking you for a task force is the concession. We know right now what reparations could look like in the absence of a study. But the concession we're making is that we're asking for a study. So if we're going to make a concession, we got to be clear about what it is. And that's why we were calling a reparations commission. And we've seen in the last couple of years, California passed theirs. They've had several hearings, are issuing reports and recommendations. Cities are moving forward. But in New Jersey, which is now majority people of color, 1 million Black people in the state, we haven't seen that bill move through the legislative process, in large part, frankly, because our state is segregated at the top. If Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver were the governor, the bill would have moved. She supported the bill at a rally of ours. In fact, she said, now's the time to talk about reparations, right? If we had an integrated leadership, in particular, Black people in the highest positions of office, this study, to study reparations and make recommendations alongside investments, it would move.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. I also think that we have to, as the brother said earlier, we have to do a better job at educating and making sure that the community understands the importance of reparations. We need reparations. If we do not get reparations as a people, we are going to become a permanent underclass. And I believe that was always the goal, because right after slavery, we saw those policies come down, and they were reflective of the institution of slavery. They always wanted to keep us within that confine. And I'm saying, when we show up to places, show up as your authentic self and your full Blackness. There was a period of time where we had to kind of hide that for our own safety. And I'm saying we're at a time now where we have this window of opportunity where Black people have to come together and rally around this issue for our own good, despite who doesn't like it, despite who is in opposition of it. It is for us to be recognized as a group who was harmed here in this country and deserving of the reparations, because it's not a gift, it is a debt owed. And we need to double down on that. Other groups have received reparations, and I'll tell you this: I used to be a staunch supporter of Bernie Sanders, and this is how tough we have to be in the political atmosphere. Once he was asked about reparations, and he's a Jewish man. Once he was asked about reparations, and he basically said he didn't support it, I had to fall all the way back, despite some of the things that I like about Bernie Sanders, because he does advocate very well for working class people. But if you're not a supporter of reparations, then you're essentially wanting to see us become a permanent underclass, and I cannot support you. And I think that's how we have to educate our community in the world of politics. we have to pull back our support from those who are either scared or just have a different political agenda. If they're not going to support reparations, and throw that support around the people that understand why reparations is needed, and put those people into office so we can get things done finally. Because we're in the year 2023. We really shouldn't be dealing with this.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're on point about that. Man, brother E, I'm I'm doing double duty here, brother. You know, we got major action going on against Zahi Hawass, you know, the so-called Egyptologist that's spewing Arab racism, right? For those who don't know, Zahi Hawass is known as one of the world's greatest Egyptologists, but he's saying that he's making anti-black statements. He's saying to the world that Egypt or Kemet wasn't a black civilization, that it was a European or Arab civilization, right? So there's I'm getting mad calls because there's going to be action taking place in Boston. There's been action taking place in America everywhere he's been. So I had to take a pause for a second, but I didn't forget. I made some notes. I wanted to say this, that we mentioned this to Mayor Baraka about reparations, right? We talked about, because there's some people that don't know how this whole thing kicked off, right? So I want to give honor and praise to one of our ancestors who is the mother of the reparations movement. That's Queen Mother Moore. There are a lot of folk who don't know who this woman is, but they claiming reparations, right? Right. But this woman was the first woman. She was a member of the UNIA under the Honorable Marcus Garvey. And then when the Black Power movement came on the scene, she was in leadership of the Republic of New Africa movement. But she was the one that launched the reparations movement to repair the damages done by slavery in this country, right? So I just wanted to give her praise and respect, because she put it out there for us. She laid the foundation for us to organize for reparations. But I want to make as one more note I made here about we were talking about the cultural damage that's done through reparations, but the economics is on point. The economics is on point. There's a debt owed to us. I think the sister said that, right, my sister? You said it's a debt owed to us, no doubt. And if that debt is not paid, let me look at my notes. If that debt is not paid, we will continue to be in the underclass. In fact, not just continue to be in the underclass, we will become the permanent underclass. All right. And so, we must have reparations to liberate ourselves from the permanent underclass ship of our people. So I just wanted to say that before I had to take these calls.
Yes, we absolutely recognize. I just want to say real quick, we recognize Queen Mother Moore, but we also recognize Callie House, and we also recognize the people who organized during the Reconstruction and I always say that the United States was its best self during the Reconstruction period, because that was an opportunity where we were all able to flourish. It doesn't mean that we were without harm or damage. We were still going through, but it was the closest the United States ever been to full equity for all its citizens.
Yeah, close, and then they pulled back.
Yeah.
They made a deal. They made a deal.
They certainly did. Believe me, I teach history and Black studies at Weequahic High School. We get to the post-Civil War era. Yeah, they made it. They was making some adjustments, but eventually white supremacy came into place, and they pulled back reparations.
But let's see if we can introduce the other sister. I'm sorry, my sister. How do we pronounce your name?
Maati Sekmet Ra from the Trenton Anti-Violence Coalition. How you doing?
I'm
peace,
good.
Everyone. Peace.
Hotep, Sister Ma.
Peace, Atalaya.
Hi, Maati.
Hotep family. Uncle Justin there.
Well, welcome to the show, sister. So, why don't you go on and give us your contribution? I mean, before you came on, one of the things the mayor was pointing out is that, he said, Ryan, that He said, part of the reason why these folks don't want to hear the word reparation, he said, because the number would be too big, right? He said, you can't even wrap your mind around, this is the mayor talking. He said, you can't wrap your mind around how much money they owe Black folk for what has been done to us. When you talk about what he said was 250 years of chattel slavery, right? When you just talk about somebody literally owning another person and working those people to death, right? Just the sheer imagination of that. So the word reparations, the mayor says, scare the hell out of these people. So for them to say it, they would have to conjure that. So, sister, why don't you go and give us your contribution on where you think we are? We're trying to put that word into the lexicon of those very people who should be considering, because as you know, Ryan, you know this, and we know this from law school. I mean, the only way to make somebody whole is that you've got to talk from that particular level. These people, and the mayor, took on that word. They are not interested in making Black people whole. That's not an interest of theirs. So even though, we put that to them and say, reparations, they understand that even if they apologize, right, that then puts them on a road to where we then have to have this conversation. But it's a conversation that they don't even want to have. But I agree that we all got to keep beating that drum. So, my sister, why don't you go on and contribute?
Absolutely.
Okay, so for me, like you said, I don't think it's a number that anybody could wrap their head around, right? And it should not just be, a financial compensation. It should be systems that set up that can offset the systems that have been set up to oppress our people for 400 years. So we talk about education, land, housing, health insurance. When we talk about taxes, prison reform, what about the generations to come, right? So how are we going to set up all these systems to offset the systems that purported white supremacy and that kept its foot on our neck for almost 500 years? So for me, I think it has to encompass more than just financial compensation. It has to, for me, it would really be land, and it would really be some type of sovereignty set up where we would have our own nationality. So it's so much to talk about when we talk about reparations beyond just a number, because we know that there are atrocities that have happened. Post-traumatic slave syndrome is real. And then we got, Black people in America in these conditions that are a direct symptom of slavery. That's a direct outcome of, chattel slavery and how we were enslaved for almost 500 years.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's right, sister.
So yeah, for me, it got to be a whole bunch of stuff that is going to really set our people on the track to, have our own nation within a nation, if that's what it takes, to have our own land, to have money to build whatever it is we need to rebuild or begin to rebuild civilization like we say that it is.
Oh, yeah, sister.
So that's my take on reparations. It can't just be dollars. It got to be like they always like to talk about infrastructure. It got to be infrastructure set up. Because like I said, if I get compensated, if I get benefits, then what about my generations behind me? What about them? And how long are we going to say these reparation benefits? I mean, don't they give whoever they gave reparations, don't they renew it every year or every 5 years, or keep giving them money in perpetuity, or however they say that, right? Don't they keep giving and keep giving? So, those would have to be the kind of discussions and the kind of demands that we would have to take when we talk about reparations.
I mean, I love that.
One more thing, the reason why they don't want to talk about something, like how a criminal had thought he got away with something for 30 years, and then because of some DNA stuff down the line, he finds out that he's been caught. They criminals, and they thought they got away with it for all these years. So that's why they don't want to talk about it.
No, I love, like, that's what we talked about at the top of the conversation was
right.
A very, like, what you identify, you've articulated an affirmative vision for what it means to build a system where we win. So obviously that includes financial contribution, financial investment, but it also includes building a system that connects us to the very best thing versus a system that we currently have that connects us to all of the most challenging things. And look, what's interesting about New Jersey is, in some ways, like I think, Brother Ed, you made this point a bunch of shows ago, like it's kind of like the idea about, the sort of understanding who you're working with. And in some of the southern states, people are really explicit about where they are. In New Jersey, very often people sound in progressive ideas and they do progressive symbols. So even the recognition of Juneteenth as a state holiday, as a federal holiday, I'm not trying to diminish the significance of a holiday, right? But the danger with symbolism, for example, with Juneteenth as a state holiday, is that you can celebrate freedom too soon, right? We know that historically, New Jersey was a state that rejected the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment. Ours was a state, it was the last northern state to end slavery. We had the most enslaved people of any northern state here in New Jersey, right? We were founded as a colony, as a state that held Black people in slavery. We gave each English white settling family 150 acres of land, gave those same families an additional 150 acres of land for each enslaved Black person they brought with them. That's our history. That's who we are. We were also a state that rejected the Emancipation Proclamation. Well, why does that matter? That matters, right? Because we celebrate Juneteenth because of the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. And if you separate the passage of Juneteenth as a state holiday in our state, if you separate that from the history of the state, there is the real danger that you celebrate too soon. And so part of what I think reparations makes it so important for us to do is to tell the true story about our identity as a colony that was formed in slavery. Our racial wealth gap in 2023, it was conceived of, it was birthed in slavery as a colony. And that history matters because that's what reflected in the racial disparities we live with. The fact that Black people in New Jersey confront some of the worst racial disparities in America are by design, design created in slavery and advanced through a series of anti-Black policies to the present. And so the reason I'm so focused on reparations, so passionate about reparations, is because I don't think we can ever really be the kind of state, the kind of people we ought to be unless we tackle the issue of who we have been, which shapes who we are, and who ultimately I think we can be. Now, here's the encouraging thing. Two quick things I'll say. Folks know Monday is the state holiday, Juneteenth. So there are actions happening across the state. The People's Organization for Progress, as you all know, is leading a march and a rally here in Newark at 2:00. Before that, at 11 a.m. in Perth Amboy, there's going to be a rally to lift up the launch of a reparations council convened by a bunch of folks not waiting on New Jersey to do it. So we'll still push the state to do it. But in the meantime, we're going to create our own on the theory that by the time New Jersey gets around to making its, we will have released our own findings to influence whatever the state ultimately does. And the state will pass a reparations commission, right? Precisely because we will be the ones to hold them accountable to doing so. But in the meantime, we're going to proceed with creating our own.
I just have to briefly bring up that bill because I have some issues with the bill, particularly when Nikki Lucas, Assemblywoman Nikki Lucas out of New York, went on the floor and she talked about reparations. She brought up some key points. The same issues that are in the New York Reparations Task Force bill is the same that I see in New Jersey, and it doesn't really identify the targeted group, and I feel that it may violate some federal considerations in the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. So, and I also looked at our bill and I see that we're very top heavy with political figures. On the bill, for instance, county freeholders are listed, and I need to know why. I have to question that. Latinos are in this bill. And while I love my Latino sisters and brothers, I need to know why they are listed in this bill. So I have some concerns as we go forth, but I am encouraged by the conversations that are happening around reparations and Juneteenth, because there are a lot of people who are not clear on why we celebrate Juneteenth.
That's dope. That's dope. That's dope, Sister Armstrong. You on point, sister. All right. You on point. You know, you mentioned the the symbolism of Juneteenth, right? Our ancestor, Dr. John Henry Clark, always said to us, always taught us to beware of these things. This is a direct quote. He said, never take, ceremony over substance, So we got to be clear on these things. You're right, brother Haygood. You on point about that as well, brother. We got to continue to keep pushing, right? Demanding this government give us our reparations, all right? But I got to say to you, brother, when you talk about New Jersey, one of the most racist states, was and still is one of the most racist states in the country. But I mean, all that was created not by my people. That's why I always say the government. I'm like Brother Malcolm, the government, the colonial government, and then the government of the United States created these policies. We had nothing to do with that, big brother.
Yeah.
I just want to make that clear to folks.
Yeah. What about Brother Bashir? What I love about this conversation is I think, right, every movement for Black empowerment has been inspired by a small group of people who make it safe for other folks to push for those things, right? Other folks who, because of their political entanglement or because they lack the courage or the will, right? It's folks like you all, like the small spaces like these, folks watching, who organize themselves around a strategy married with passion to hold folks accountable, and they begin to change the conversation.
Yeah.
And so what inspires me about this is that if you think about it, just 3 years ago, ahead of the pandemic, you'll remember that the discussion then was about whether Black Lives Matter.
That's right.
Right? It was like, when you say Black Lives Matter, they say are you saying all lives don't matter? And that's where it was, that folks were resisting this undeniable truth that Black Lives Matter. And then we saw very quickly folks start to say, I think they matter. In fact, I got a yard sign that says it. People began to paint streets, right? Black Lives Matter. It's Black Lives Matter, Avenue in Washington, D.C. We have it right here in Hall. You started to see symbolism of Black Lives Mattering painted. Right. I think now comes the challenge for us to make that staying real through the actions that we take. And part of what, for me, has been really encouraging is if you said reparations 3 years ago, you still get mad resistance right now, to be clear, right? But there's a conversation, even Atalia's point, there's a conversation about, so when you talk about reparations, who gets it? And when there's a belief that there's going to be a thing that people can get. Right. A couple of years ago, there was not really as much a debate about who gets it, because the question was what's there to get? Right. Now we're starting to see a vision for what we can get, which leads to a conversation about who gets it. And I think those conversations are the ones that begin to change hearts and minds. It's folks like us that make this conversation. We will make this safe for folks who are politically entangled, don't find it palatable, don't have courage right now. And I say this, those folks who are resisting it now, when it starts to move, will later claim they always supported it, which is how it always goes.
You on point. But those
I have a question.
Those brothers and sisters, right, a couple of years ago, were organizing against police violence, organizing for justice for George Floyd. They pushed it. Yeah. It's like they pushed Juneteenth, pushed the recognition of Black Wall Street. Because before that, we were talking about this with the mayor. Remember this, E? Before that, folks thought that Juneteenth was an Afrocentric made-up holiday, brothers and sisters. Yeah. They thought Wall Street was a made-up holiday. And reparations, please. That's some Black nationalists behind, some hood talk, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But brothers and sisters in the streets, pushed it hard, And so, yeah, I mean, I know you always remind me, brother, the world is a stage. Everybody got their role to play, no doubt. Those folk gonna be in those, in Trenton. They're gonna be in the state house.
Yeah.
Some of us gonna be in the streets too, pushing it
Yeah.
hard, you
Hard.
know, hard that issue of
Yeah.
reparations.
So I got a question to Mr. Haygood.
Yes, ma'am.
So as a community organizer, if I wanted to, gain community buy-in to understand and push for reparations, what would be some of the very primary things that I should be doing?
Yeah, I love it. So here's the thing. One concrete thing is we have this pending piece of legislation that is pushing the state to create a task for a reparations commission. I mean, frankly, part of why it hasn't moved is because elected officials haven't moved it. So I think when we, to your point, start to see folks organize very locally to get their state legislators to move it, that bill will move. It was introduced in 19. It hasn't had a hearing. I mean, think about it. It hasn't, in part because elected officials have been able to run from it. So notwithstanding support from almost every Black elected official, it's not moved. To your point, which I love, it moves when local communities organize to get their state legislators to support it. And their support moves the leadership to support it. So that's one concrete thing. Another thing, though, that local communities have started to do, we've seen about 40 cities across the country create their own commissions. So the city of Trenton, for example, could create its own reparations commission. As you know, every city has a very unique experience with slavery. Newark's is different, say, from Montclair, though there's some similarities. Newark is similar and dissimilar in ways to Trenton and Camden. So we've seen cities start to organize very locally to tell the story of how slavery took root and has impacted the modern day experience and the opportunities available to Black people. So, for example, in the city of Trenton, you could partner with an institution of higher learning, and then you and other local advocates could organize to create a reparations commission in that city while we push for the state to do its own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how about like would it be a good idea to have city council draw up resolutions so that they could officially go on the record as you know, as they already have?
So we had about 20 cities pass resolutions in support of the state legislation.
Right.
Trenton is one.
Okay.
But the cities could also take another step and they could create their own study and then make recommendations around how to repair the enduring harm from their city's experience with slavery.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Ed, I think, when we started the session, we were so engrossed in the mayor's discussion. Did we introduce ourselves as co-hosts, brother?
Well, we didn't introduce ourselves. Obviously Ryan knew who we are, but we can go back and introduce ourselves to these folks. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm Brother Bashir Muhammad Patel Akinyele, guest co-hosting this Friday. All right. And I'm a history. During the day, I'm a history and Africana Black Studies teacher at Weequahic High School. We from Newark. We say Weequahic, right? I'm a community activist, community organizer, but I'm also a member of the ASCAT study group in Newark, New Jersey. ASCAT simply means the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. I'm the coordinator. My brother Dashan Farad is the co-coordinator. Hotep, peace. Uncle Justin Net.
So, my name is Ed Riley. I'm just one of the co-hosts of the show. The other co-host, Jonathan Austin, he's in Arizona. Zaid is at a graduation, so I'm just one of the co-hosts of All Politics Are Local. So, nice to meet you, sisters. Obviously, Ryan and I go back. I know Ryan, so I didn't feel a need to introduce myself. My apologies, sisters, but we just a drum in the community.
I know that's right. Well, I'm another drum in the community. My name is Maati Sekmet Ra with the Trenton Anti-Violence Coalition. I'm co-founder, longtime community activist. I got my roots started in being a member of the chief of staff of the member of the new Black Panther Party here in Trenton. We evolved that work into the Trenton Anti-Violence Coalition because we realized that, you know, violence is one of the number one things that's plaguing our community. But our approach is that you can't just talk about the violence without talking about the underlying conditions, and then talking about really the source of the violence without talking about police violence, structural violence, political violence, racial violence, without talking about all those forms of violence. So, you know, I know that we at the Trenton Anti-Violence Coalition, we have to lift up every topic, and we have to talk about all the underlying conditions, especially poverty, right? Because that's the main thing we're fighting. And every Black and brown community, you know, all over the world, all over the state of New Jersey, and definitely here in Trenton, in this 7.2 square mile town. It's a small town that got real big city problems, got a lot of political corruption. And, you know, I've been out here for almost 2 decades now, being an organizer and an activist and being an agent for change. That's who I am. Thank you.
All right, Sister Black Power.
I had a question for the host. So this, you know, this whole conversation makes me think about, you know, kind of to Atalia's first point, that, you know, the arc of the fight for reparations in New Jersey. And I would just love for you, brother Ed, you, brother Bashir, just talk us through like this is the latest iteration of that longer struggle, but, you know, on the history point and acknowledging the folks came before us. If you could just say a few words about sort of how the reparations fight has developed over time, recognizing that this is one of the more recent versions of it.
Hey.
All right, we got John.
Oh, yes.
John, you got to mute your mic, brother. John, Hotep, John, you got to mute your mic. Ed, did you mute?
You got to mute me.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
There you go. That's what's up.
Go ahead. You was asking a question.
Yeah, so I would just say I wanted to see if you all would just weigh in on kind of the arc of the fight for reparations, like sort of where I know this is the most recent version that builds on work done over decades, but if you could just talk a bit about where we've come from on this fight and some of its origins in New Jersey.
Go ahead, B. You the historian. I'll let you go.
You know, the origins of the struggle around reparations, I mean, a lot of it came from, you know, the Black Power movement in the late 1960s, early 1970s under our good brother Amamu Amir Baraka and his wife Amina Baraka. A lot of organizing came around that, and then, you know, as time moved forward, our brother Larry Ham, you know, he started the People's Organization for Progress in the early 80s. One of the demands that they still demanded was reparations, you know. And then other organizations in Newark got involved when the new Black Panther Party came on the scene in Newark, New Jersey. In the late 90s, they demanded reparations. But reparations, for the most part, was coming from the grassroots. Most elected officials didn't recognize it, didn't want to recognize it, you know, until very recently. This is very recently, and two factors, you know, kind of push folk in this direction. One, of course, is the organizing for justice for George Floyd, right, and against police brutality. But the other thing is Trump. You know, Donald Trump, when he ran for re-election, he launched his campaign on Juneteenth and said that he was coming to Oklahoma. And we talked about this with Mayor Baraka. That thing blew up on social media. People who had knowledge of Juneteenth and had knowledge of Black Wall Street said, "Oh, he's disrespecting our culture," and it just blew up and went from social media to the grassroots, and then moved to mainstream America. And so, you know, we got Juneteenth as a holiday, right? And then folks started to recognize the fact that we had thriving communities like Black Wall Street and many other Rosewood, many other Black Wall Streets all around the country, right? And then this thing called reparations, came up on the scene, and people started to say, wait a minute, we were enslaved for nearly 250 years. There were there was nothing to repair the damages done. And like the sister said, the trauma that we experienced, we're demanding reparations. All right. And brother Haygood, you're gonna like this. I was writing, I don't know if you got some of my op-ed pieces. I was writing op-ed pieces like crazy when folks were so enthusiastic for social justice. They were talking about pulling statues down, and movies should Gone with the Wind should be some sort of, I don't know, some sort of like discussion about it, right? So folks were doing all the social justice. I just wrote a few op-ed pieces that said, you can keep your statues and your movies, give us our reparations. All right. That's real talk, and because when you examine reparations, just as a sidebar note, there are people, other cultural groups that are getting reparations, right? Straight up. And Jews, the Jewish community, right? They receive billions. I mean, not only just received it, they got a whole nation, they got a nation, and that nation is supported financially as well as their community. And they get this on a regular basis, right? On top of that, they got
the United States.
Yeah. And guess what, Bashir? They didn't have to do all the work that we're proposing that we need to do. Right. It was like handed to them, right?
Absolutely. After 1945, after the ending of the war, the Nazis, literally, wiped the Jews off the planet Earth so quickly, and rightly so, gave reparations, right? But that didn't happen to us, all right? And we're still demanding reparations, after 1865, So it started, Brother Haygood. This movement started in the hood, started on the block. It started in in the community, and thank God it picked up. There's some mainstream folk now getting involved, right? They're speaking in state houses, they're speaking in city halls, they're speaking at the government. And oh man, I forgot to mention our good brother Ed. You almost made me forget Dr. Ryan Haygood. He's one of the pioneers as well, and still demanding, right, for reparations. And then there's in Cobra, they started demanding reparations in the late 80s and still demanding reparations. In fact, they're the ones who got HR 40, right? They're the ones who kind of helped or moved the elected officials to push HR 40 through Congress, right? Way before I was conscious. I was, in the 80s, I was dead. I didn't know anything about myself or my culture or my people, any of these things. And they were working, I'm in my mid-50s now, but you're talking about, over 30 years ago, these brothers and sisters were working hard to demand reparations from elected officials. And in my humble opinion, I still don't think they get the credit they deserve. And Kobe been out there a long time, fighting, and building coalitions, right, with mainstream folks as well as grassroots to get reparations for our people. But the movement for reparations began in the hood, man. It began with the grassroots in Newark, New Jersey, and spread throughout New Jersey.
And what I would add to that, and all that Bashir said is true and correct. I would add most recently, and of course we could have Zaid chime in from here, but I would be remiss if we didn't include Roger Wareham and the D12 movement. Absolutely. Those brothers and sisters out in Brooklyn, and how they're continuing to push for reparations for our people. I don't think that there was anywhere that we went when we were in undergrad 30 years ago, that Mother Moore wasn't pushing to us reparations, right? And so for those of us who were just coming into our 20s, and running into an elder like Queen Mother Moore, we were hearing about reparations for the very first time. So that's been a conversation that's been part of the Black lexicon in the Black community from New York to Washington to Chicago to Newark. Reparations has been that kind of conversation, particularly for those of us who use the word conscious, not that connotation woke stuff, right?
Go
Those
ahead.
of us who call ourselves conscious.
Go ahead. Go
That's
ahead.
where we come from. And so what Mayor Baraka was alluding to an hour ago when he said that, he talked about the need for us to have conversation. And he wasn't talking like you just said, Brother Ryan, and he mentioned, the conversation would continue when you came on. But what he said is that there was a need for us to come together and for us to have these conversations, right? And so if we're having these conversations, there is that likelihood that this drum could become louder. And because those of us who have position and presence, like you, like him, like myself, like Zaid, like Bashir, like the people here, what happens is that those people, like the mayor said, those people will at some point claim that they'd always been with us, right? And we know they haven't, but they will make that claim. Zaid, I'm gonna throw it to you and let you contribute to that.
Absolutely. Hotep, peace, Brother Zaid. I think Zaid is Zaid.
Oh, you troublemakers up too.
Good to see you, my brother.
Let me apologize. I was in just traveling, trying to get back from a situation that I had to deal with. And I tried to get a few minutes of y'all on Facebook while I was on my phone in transit. But if I hear you right, you're asking the question, some of the background on where we at with the reparations question. Several things need to be said. One, just within the last several years, and building on the remarks that you two just shared, we are in a very important historic place with the question of reparations. For, I would say, better than 100 years, we have never been able to get the question of reparations beyond the ranks of our own community. And 100 years, I go back to Callie House, right? The first sister who really organized our folks in the hundreds of thousands around the question of reparations coming into the 20th century. And I have always said, y'all know my work around our political prisoners, that Marcus Garvey was our first modern political prisoner. We have to correct the record, because Callie House did so well organizing around the question of reparations. She found herself facing and doing time. And how she was framed will later be the same playbook that will be used to frame Marcus Garvey.
That's right.
That time to where we are now in the last several years, California, Evanston, some of these towns taking this question up, going beyond the parameters of our community, right? Different communities coming out, and parts of the larger, so-called majority community coming out in support of the question of reparations is a moment that we must seize. The moment that we must seize and refuse to go back. The summer of 2020 that y'all were talking about gave us our largest protest moment in history, right? And that protest moment was Black, brown, and white. A lot of those big Black Lives Matter marches were multiracial in their character.
That's right.
We see that energy coming forward in a place like California. We see the beneficiaries of reparations out of the Japanese community in California coming out strong in California for reparations, because they've been through the concentration camp, American concentration camps in the 20th century, right? And they said, if we can receive reparations for what we went through, certainly descendants of Africa who all that they have been through can certainly receive something, and we support that. We support that call, So it's our task now to forge some operational unity within our community, and as we do that, we also must be about building the support in those other spaces and places where that allows things to get done. right? I'm happy to see the initiatives that have come out of some of what Ryan and others we have been doing in Jersey, that we're developing that kind of church-based multiracial, character here in New Jersey. All that has to be built on, and there's no substitute for constant, meaningful political education in our community and in other communities. We have these discussions in order to move that forward. But this is a long, old struggle, and we're in groundbreaking space. Recently, we lost a great brother who was the first really to push HR 40 and Bill Owens out of Boston, right? And there's some folks that I know in Boston. Boston has an ordinance calling for a commission that's long-standing work that goes back to him in the 70s, right? So there's, so we've got a lot of shoulders to stand on and to appreciate to really make this thing happen. And they stole us, they sold us, they owe us.
Yeah. That and no truer words have ever been spoken. And let me tell y'all something, man. Y'all know in the black, in the black community, y'all know slangs will pick up, right? Mm-hmm. We've got to say that loud, and we've got to continue to say that proud, and then we've got to make that reparations, right, fall off the tip as the next thing, right? Even if we've got to put a song together, right? Because I think that, from my perspective, for all of y'all, and I told the mayor this, like,
you must spit reparations,
right? Mm-hmm. I told the mayor when he was a councilman, I told him that, and I'm saying this to all of y'all, right? This shit is either gonna fly or it ain't gonna fly, and it's gonna happen on our watch. I'm gonna tell y'all that straight out, right? Because the white folks that are on deck now, they are the sons and daughters that our mothers and fathers and grandmothers fought against, man, right? And all y'all got to do is take a look at what's happening. And the mayor gave a litany of all of the states, but I'm gonna tell y'all to take a look at one state, Jackson, Mississippi, and take a look at Jackson alone, what they doing down there, y'all, right? And there's a brother down there who's the black mayor. And they're trying to dial back the entire political system.
I go back to his daddy. His daddy was a ferocious reparations warrior coming out of the new independent. And to Ed's point, we must also be clear about this, right? This country is also at a political crossroads, right? We're not just gaining ground on reparations in a vacuum, right? We represent where the country should be going. But at the same time, there is a fascist threat that is real. 1969, the Black Panther Party called for a national united front against fascism, right? In 69, right? When we had another criminal in the White House by the name of Richard Nixon. Some of us, I remember Richard Nixon, right? So here in this particular moment, right, we got more than Richard Nixon.
Teach, Bob.
We got more than Richard Nixon. So the unity that I'm talking about for reparations should not at all be separated from the united front that we need, that also must be multiracial, right? To defeat the right wing in this fascist threat. Because that threatens some of everybody, right? On all sides, right? So this particular moment is pivotal. It requires maximum participation of our people on those things that matter, from the ballot and all the way, if necessary, because fascists use guns, to the bullet. So we must organize.
It must be. That's right. It got to be multiracial.
That was necessary to not lose the kind of ground that we have lost historically. Reconstruction was overthrown violently through terror and military betrayal and attacks. Right?
Yep.
Things can happen if we do not take this kind of moment and what's on the horizon seriously. And this handsome young man with this big old greeny face just popped in. Let me wind down because I'm probably talking too damn much. That's a great job.
Oh no, you're not talking too much, man.
Listen, Baba Zai, you're on point about that. Got to be multiracial, right? Because folks are benefiting. So many coaches are benefiting off the backs of black folk. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. So it's got to be like that, no doubt. You right on point with that, man.
I can't stay too long, but I'm just cheesing, a little grinning. This has been a good day, been a good week. So I just popped in to say hello to everyone from Arizona. And many of you might know, I just been inducted to the Debate Coach
Yeah,
Hall of Fame
congratulations, John.
in the largest
You
debate
earned that,
organization in the
brother.
country. So it's cool.
You
It's
earned
cool.
that, brother.
It's very cool, very
I'll
cool.
shade.
Yep, they only accepted 6 members this year, and it's like it is the highest award that the largest debate organization in the United States, and actually one of the largest in the world,
That's right,
offers.
brother.
So it's really cool. It was a very cool honor. It was
Awesome.
a very cool honor.
All right, John.
And where you from there, Mr.
Hey,
Austin?
we are in Phoenix, Arizona.
No. That ain't what I'm asking. I said, where you from?
Oh, I'm from Newark, man. I'm from Newark. I'm from Newark, educated in Newark. I went to Science Park High School, or Science High School, our Science High School.
Weston Ave.
Right?
Newark.
Yes.
Weston
Grew up on West End
Ave.
Avenue.
Woo.
Grew up on West End Avenue, and I gave a Hall of Fame speech, right? That I thought was like, I don't think I delivered it really well. Like, I'm always critical of myself, but I like the way I wrote. I like what I wrote, and I basically said that we're able to do the stuff that we do, and the kids are able to do the stuff that they do, right? Like Newark has produced some great debaters in the past. We've had kids make the USA World Team. We had, a person in college debate take 2 national championships in a week, something that had never been done before by anyone. He graduated from university, worked with us for a while. We had top speakers at the National High School Tournament of Champions. Like, there have been a lot of consistent things that happen in Newark that were good. But what made it really important, and I think this goes to really looping it into this conversation, is about resources, right? Newark funds debate. Like, the reason why debaters have been good from generation to generation, the debate team is 40 years old. We had a streak of 20 straight state championships. There are a lot of things that kids have done in debate over the years, like awards after awards after awards. It's been consistent because resources have been consistent.
Wait.
Because the things that we need in order to compete with the best schools in the United States, and we do compete with the best schools in the United States, and we often beat many of the best schools in the United States, right? Like, so we are competitive with them, but we're competitive with them because there's a resource thing, right? That Newark believes in. Newark is like, hey, if we believe in excellence in debate at a national level, and we're going to put the resources behind it in order to get it. That's one of the reasons why I don't like a lot of these other conversations where they're like, the kids have grit, the kids have spunk, they do stuff in spite of, right? Nah, in Newark, debaters do well, not in spite of Newark, but because of Newark and the resources that are allocated toward education. I couldn't be a Hall of Fame coach if I didn't have an institution with resources to be able to give kids the same opportunities that these kids at Harvard, Westlake, or very elite institutions have, right? Like, and when you look at it, a lot of times when people give money to urban programs, they give money to Black and brown people because they just happy kids can read, right? They're just like, oh, you spoke, right? They are not giving money to programs that will allow our kids to beat theirs. That's not the mentality they have. Like, if you're not trying to fund things so that Black and brown kids from wherever could compete with and often beat the kids of the rich, their own kids, the kids of the people who are given the money, then we got questions about whether what you're giving is worthwhile anyway, right? So that's, so I just jumped in here because in terms of the reparations conversation, this is about, we often talk about the education gap. Why is the education gap? Oh, we need some charter schools because they're going to do something. They're going to have a business model. No, right? The ones that aren't funded in resource don't do well. The ones that are funded in resource do. The public schools that are funded in resource do well, right? Like, we like to think, we pretend that it's like rocket science when it's not. If you fund the resources to give the training and the resources that the kids need with the expectations and the talent will find itself, right? So that's, that was just my little thing about the importance of when you've been talking about reparations. What will it mean? What do resources mean? Stop trying to say we need to do more with less, right?
Go ahead, John. That's right.
No, because you wouldn't say that for your own children.
Go ahead, John.
So
That's
I'm a
what's
little
up.
hot. So, I got like Zaid. Oh, you talk too much. I'm also in a very good mood, right? Because I also was helping to run part of the tournament that just ended. So all that well, and some of my little middle schoolers did well too. So, I mean, that's all good too. So, things are looking well. And so I'm in a very, very good mood. Came on to say, hey, I hate to like some of my friends. Hey, Ryan, man, good seeing you. Good seeing you.
Congratulations.
Good seeing you too.
Congratulations.
Man. I'm looking through this lens and seeing people, Zaid, Ed, right? So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, man.
That's what's up, brother. Oh, we lost it. John, you muted.
I said I might have to pop on out, just wanted to wish everybody well. I was happy to see the show's going well, but I was in a good mood. The reparations conversation, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in because in the speech that I gave, it really is all about resources, and that's why. So,
that's what's up.
All
right, John.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, hold that, brother. Peace.
All right, Austin. Peace.
Folks, I dropped in the chat a link to a really powerful video that the mayor narrates around reparations. It tells the story of New Jersey in under 3 minutes, and it makes the case for reparations.
I thought y'all opened with that. That's why I said it. I missed
it.
With it, right?
No, I saw it.
Did you? Okay. Yeah, it's
an excellent video.
Piece. Yeah.
All right. Well, brothers and sisters, that was our brother John Austin. He's in a great mood. He's getting all his accolades, and deservedly so. I've known John for over 30 years. He graduated. He did his high school years at Science Park High School when it was just a little building on Rucker. Damn, I can't think of this. What's that street, Bob?
That's it. Ruckus or something like that, right there on the side of the street.
Little building, and those guys were earning titles, man. I wasn't conscious. I wasn't involved. I wasn't about academics back when I was in high school. But Science Park High School was known as a great school back in the 80s, and it had an awesome debate team. And what made that debate team was John Austin and Roger Leone. I mean, the current superintendent, those guys were winning all kinds of national titles, state national titles. And when John went away to Yale, graduated, he went away to Yale and graduated from Yale. He came back, right, to be a teacher in Newark, in his hometown, and at his alma mater at Science. He's been there ever since. I think John's been there for 30 years.
It's an enormous story.
We said, "Well,
the story. All of you are y'all were being modest as you reintroduced yourself for this segment.
Yeah,
but all of you are enormous stories. I'm proud of just to be associated with you, brothers.
Absolutely, John.
So I guess the journey that this show has been on has been quite a journey, and it comes from some folks with some committed presences in their community, right? And committed to vision, right? Ed has been holding the fire for rekindling the importance of claiming the practical value in this urgent moment of the National Black Political Convention, right? And is getting ready to take us into another space and iteration in a little while. And when that time comes, we'll talk about that, right? Bashir is one of the most popular teachers in this town, not because he's a good teacher in the classroom, but he actually gets in the community, in the streets, in this community for the love and the survival of his students. Y'all might not know this, but this that young man was one of the was a sharp chairman for the Newark chapter, the Black Panther, Black Panther. Once upon a time, right? Right. This ain't no bourgeois stuff here we talking about, right? And Jonathan is engaging in a tradition made in our community most famous by the by the Malcolms and the Robesons and folks like that, right? And who knows how many are going to come from that legacy just based on the heads that he has his hands on. So great, all of y'all, great story. So it's good to be back. Bash, it's good to have you back in the space, even though you were actually pinch hitting for me, right?
Absolutely.
It's all politics and local when you had to step off.
Oh,
right?
brother, I'm
held this down for years.
Doing double duty, brother. Right.
What you've done, and we're ready to continue to move forward.
That's what's up.
My little daughter Dawn is on, so I know we got to get ready for the next segment.
Absolutely.
Our queens that are on are here for the. Are both of you here on for the first time?
Yes, it's my first time, Baba.
Okay, so Bashir, why don't you ask our queens our ritual question so we can transition them on.
Well, before we get to that, Baba Zayed, I think they want to make their last statements. We were discussing.
Go ahead, Rattle. You got it.
Right, so please, sisters, before we close out the segment, you can state your closing statements about reparations.
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys again for having me on. Wherever I am talking about reparations and I'm talking about our plight. I really think it's important. I agree with a lot that was said tonight. We do have to do more organizing around the issue. We do have to keep raising this issue in spite of, because of all of that good stuff. Because as I stated, and we all know this, if we need our reparations, one, because we need the repair, and two, if we don't get it, we are at risk of becoming a permanent underclass. And because we built this country, our ancestors built this country, and we are major contributors to it.
That's right.
That would be a shame to see a group of people suffer all the way from slavery and never, ever, ever be repaired or even acknowledged for our contributions here in this society, this country. So I guess my closing remark is keep fighting, y'all. Keep fighting and keep showing up. Keep showing up, and in whatever space you are in, show up as your authentic self. And let's keep fighting the powers that be. I believe we will get it. Yes, I do.
Thank you so much, dear sister. That was on point. Sister Maati.
Slavery is reparations is a huge battle that we have to fight, and we just have to remain consistent. For me, I know that I will, lift it up when I'm organizing, when I'm talking to people, when I'm bringing up the important issues here in Trenton. It is just another one of the things that we are beginning to address and will continue to address. So I'm interested to see how it looks when all the studies have been done, when all the research is in, right? When all the policy has changed and when everyone is on board with it, what it really is going to look like for us and our people. Because again, it cannot just be financial compensation. It has to be so much more beyond that. So I am really, looking forward to continuing to raise up the issue of reparations and, really even more looking forward to what it's going to look like when it's proposed that, they cut the check.
Thank you, sister. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Dua, appreciate that. All right. For those who don't know, dua is an ancient African Egyptian Kemetic word that means thank you, giving thanks. Dua. Thank you so much, my sister, for that. Now, before you sisters go, we got a hip hop question because our show is politics, but it's hip hop as well. So we have a question for you. Ready, Sister Armstrong?
She's muted.
Oh, you muted.
I said I think so. I failed the last time with this question. Let's try it again.
Okay. All right, let's do it like this. And let's back up. What are you vibing to right now? What's moving your consciousness? All right, your spirit right now in terms of hip hop.
So I'm still in that same space. I'm really not listening to any music.
Okay.
I have So been listening in the past week to Martin Luther King Jr. Speeches,
Okay.
the ones that are not online. So if that's considered music, it is music to my ears.
That's what's
So
up.
that's what I'm listening to.
Got you.
Well, wait a minute. Hold up. What speeches? You can't just walk away with some of that. Hold up.
Oh, she had to pull it. She's showing actual facts, Baba Saeed.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah,
Now, what has stood out for you? What speeches and sermons have stood out for you?
So right now I am on let me look at I think I listened to A Knock at Midnight, but that's online. We have A Call to Conscience.
Mm-hmm.
We have I'm midway with this one right here. I don't know if you can see it with this one right here.
Yeah,
They're old school CDs.
Awesome.
So I had to So I had to find something to play this stuff in. So this is where I'm at right now, and I have a whole box to finish up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Pulling out the CDs. I like it. You can't see it, but
Dr. King was a jazz man too.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Sister Armstrong, you can't see it in my living room right now. Maybe I'll turn my camera a little bit. I don't know. I got a little radio and a DVD and a CD player right next to me.
Yeah.
My wife, she likes to play CDs.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, it's also a record player.
Oh, I have that too.
So we can play vinyl records over here.
Keep all those things. Keep them all because you're going to.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely.
Matter.
Just
as the technology moves ahead, it still
want to
matter.
see if we can move along. Keep in mind, we don't know how much time Dawn got. So,
all right, no doubt. Thank you so much, Sister Armstrong.
She rocking too.
Sister Maati, what's moving your consciousness?
I'm gonna really be honest and say, and I'm gonna regret saying this on this show. I really don't listen to hip hop. Honestly, I listen to classical, jazz, and R&B. That's what I'm listening to. But in the last week, for some reason, I was like wanted to change, and I just felt in the mood. And I dug out the Best of Future mixtape. Okay. And that's what I've been listening to in terms of hip hop. Okay. But I don't on a regular basis do. That's just because I felt in the mood that day. Right. I forgot what I was doing. I wanted to be amped up, and I said, let me just hear something else. Okay. And I got out the I think it's called Back to the Future, his mixtape. And that's the last piece of hip hop that I've heard, honestly. And probably about probably all of 2023. I'm gonna be honest, because I don't listen to hip hop.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
That was it, and it did it for me.
Do I, sister? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate.
Thank you. Thanks for having
the work you do. All right. We're moving along to our next segment, which includes our dear sister, Dawn Haynes. All right. A warrior for our community, for our people. She is currently the vice president of the Newark Board of Education. She is one of the founding members of the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, an organization that inspired the creation of the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery. All right, and she's a mother, she's a wife as well. All right. But she's one of my dear friends, my comrade for real. All right.
She represents for the Brick City Peace Collective.
And represent. You took the words right out of my mouth. Currently, she represents the Brick City Peace Collective. All right. So we want to welcome our sister Dawn Haynes with a strong round of applause. What's going on, my sister?
And before we give her that, let's not forget she was also the president of the Board of Education.
Well, we absolutely. She was the former president. Newark Board of Education. She's currently the vice president of the Newark Board of Education. Still in the trenches fighting for our children. She didn't disappear. She didn't
That's
She
right.
didn't go away. She's still there. Thank you so
So
much.
Thank
so
you
she
for that
so
introduction.
Sister Dawn didn't only rock in the mud and mire with her people. She
Right.
rocked on the level up here with our people. So
No
we
doubt.
appreciate our queen for that.
Activist Muslim
Get
sister.
that
too.
introduction. Y'all made me feel special.
Wow.
You
No,
never
but
know.
all right and exact though, sister.
Yeah,
Come on.
until they- I
That's
all
when
right.
you come,
appreciate
that's when you
that,
come
brother.
amongst the brothers who know you. See, that's the love you get when you come
That's
home.
right. You're in all of that.
I
Yep.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. You got me cheesing.
Oh, come on. It's all love though. That's all right and exact though, sister. You know, and you're an activist Muslim. You're not one of the Muslims who just, make prayer and disappear. You are active in the community as a Muslim as well. So
Because I
appreciate it.
believe truly, like, that's the fight of the people. Like, an oppression to one is an oppression to all. So if we're trying to change the oppression in our community, if we can't change it with our mouth and our hands, the least I can do is pray against it. So I try to do as much as I can in all three, especially since I'm trying to get good deeds to make it to Jannah. This life is temporary and short.
Oh yeah, that's right, sister. So we brought you on the show to talk about your latest project.
Yes.
Right.
So between the Brick City Peace Collective and the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery, we have partnered with our Essex County surrogate, Mr. Tariq Kenny, as well as the RBG Bike Riders, EZ Ride, and several other bike organizations to do Light Up the City bike rides. So our first one was on May 19th. It was well attended. We kicked
Wait,
off.
hold up. Y'all
Yes,
ride bikes for what?
bicycles for peace. First,
Oh, okay. I want to
for
make sure you got that
visibility.
in.
Yeah, we have to bust down these myths that our city is not safe, right? Like, we have to debunk the myths that Newark is not safe, or that people aren't interested in bike riding. Like, no, both is a lie. We ride a bike. We have a good time doing it. The support that we get from our community is ridiculous, right? It is absolutely motivating. Especially, I just had a baby 8 months ago, so I'm like the last bike. Like, wait a minute. People in the community, like, come on, let's go, keep it going, y'all got it. We're showing that, like, our people have so many different opportunities here in the city of Newark that we must take advantage of. I remember when they first did the bike lanes, I was one of those people complaining, like, we don't even ride bikes in Newark. Why are they making the streets smaller with bike lanes? And now I see the purpose of it, the use of it. The community is involved in it. And so we try to hit all the wards. The last time, our office is in the Central Ward at the former First Precinct, which is now the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery, 10 17th Avenue. It's a one-stop shop for everything dealing with trauma recovery in our community. So that's our kickoff point. The kickstand is going up at 7:30. The first ride we did, we hit the Central Ward, we went up to the South Ward, through the West Ward, and came back to the Central Ward. This week we're gonna do it a little different. We're gonna come out of the Central Ward, go down to the East Ward, go over to the North Ward, and then come back up to the Central Ward, because our city is all inclusive and our organizations reach every part of our city.
Wow, that's strong.
When is this going to happen?
So next Wednesday, the 21st, and I'm super excited.
That's
and
dope.
we have lights for the bikes. So, like, just imagine a good 70 to 100 people on bicycles riding through, like, cheering folks on.
And the time of and so break down what this is going to look like. You're alluding to it, but really let's get into this.
So we'll have resources and
lights
music.
on bikes. So y'all gonna be riding at nighttime?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And everybody's bikes will be decorated with lights, pretty lights. We are congregating at 5, just to go over safety precautions, because this is a real lifestyle. We have organizations that are donating helmets, and we're trying to find a way to do for them to give away bicycles for those that are in need, that would like to be a part of it, that need a bicycle. So we have donor bikes. We have the VEO, the motorized bikes that's in the community now, the scooters, because as the mayor said, they are here to stay.
So we're doing safety around those as well, you know, like really educating our children, specifically those between the ages of 15, 16, because according to the state law, they are legal to ride them. So just making sure that they understand the safety precautions behind it. So that'll be happening between 5 and 7. We'll be on our bikes by 7:15, and the kickstands go up by 7:30, and we start our journey. We should be complete by hopefully by 9.
That's a lot of bike riding. I've been on a bike since I was 15 years old, and I was high as a kite and hardly have any memory of it. Probably stole a bike.
You know,
borrowed
Zaid, you know what she was saying, that Zaid, I was saying, I don't even know if I can ride a bike anymore. You know what I mean?
It's just like skating. Once you got it, you got it. You can't lose, bicycles skills.
But from a point of harnessing the power of community as an anecdote to the pain and suffering from violence, this event is give me that trauma-informed word that would explain what this event actually demonstrates.
So for me, when we came up with the idea for the bike rides, and then reaching out to the targeted population that we deal with, which are victims of violence, whether it is victims or perpetrators of violence, and that type of unity and camaraderie, to be able to be comfortable enough and vulnerable enough to ride through our city, knowing that they are safe, right? Knowing that this is a space that they're welcomed in throughout the entire city, no matter where we're riding at. I think that we need that. Like, we need to be able to show our community and involve the community and involve everybody that is interested in being a part of. We don't turn anybody away. And it builds like a relationship in our community. Like, I rode through one block,
Right.
10th and Clinton Avenue, and one of the guys yelled out, "I don't even know how to ride a bike." So I've been looking for this kid. So the other day when I was passing out flyers for the next one, I jumped out of my car, had a full conversation with the homeboys, the young men that was on that block, right? I'll keep the block, but it's off of Clinton Ave. So to engage that conversation, to find out one of them was shot and that he never learned how to ride a bicycle. Okay, well, I'm gonna come get you. Got permission from his big homie. Come get you. We're gonna learn how to ride a bike. So when you're interested, had the conversation of what areas we were going into and if he was comfortable with joining us. So it opens up a dialogue with people in our community that haven't happened before, right?
Right.
You know, we're able to build on something and build on the information that we have to give, the resources we have to give. Another example, yesterday we were putting up the flyers throughout the entire route, and I stopped at what's going to be a cooling station coming out of, on Raymond Boulevard, where it used to be a 7-Eleven, but now it's just a Dollar General. And I was talking to like 2 or 3 kids that was in there with their mom. And when I caught eye contact with the mom, like, okay, you just don't randomly talk to people's kids and there's an adult present. So I introduced myself and she was like, "Oh, you look familiar." I'm like, "You look familiar too." Long story short, she said, "You may have remembered me. I got shot 2 years ago. So you're a victim of violence. Are you bringing the babies to the bike ride?" If I could secure her a bike to send home with her children, I'll be good. But even better than that, sis, let me get you this VVCO application filled out, because you have up to 5 years if you're a victim of violence to get this money. Because if not, it goes back to the state police and they don't need another dime.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So it opens up like real conversations and like making sure that woman or that brother that I was speaking to, or that sister and her children, have another resource that's at their disposal within our city of Newark. And I think that's the point that Mayor Baraka was trying to make. We are who we've been waiting for.
And look how far we've come. We've got young people in our community that don't know how to ride a bike. Something in communities that have not faced the violence that ours have faced, right? And the investment that ours has faced, right? Can take for granted.
Absolutely.
Take for granted.
Take for granted. Not even pay attention to it.
You know, and the word I was looking for, Dawn, when I asked you that question, I was being purposeful, but the word I was looking for is it's an incredible expression of collective resilience, the resilience of our town, right? It's like when we were shutting streets down back here, Dawn, we were shutting those streets down. We were not prevent our folks from accepting the normalization of violence, right?
Right.
But that we have to also have to give folks modes of expression to reaffirm their right to live without violence,
Right.
and to transcend the pitfalls and the hurt and the trauma of violence. We could ultimately, do some healing. We may never get rid of it. It doesn't go away, but we could do enough healing to demonstrate the resilience that Marx was a great character, that makes Newark known for what all those things that Newark needs to be known for, like Jonathan just being awarded nationally.
I'm so proud of them. And this has opened up a conversation with the Board of Education in a different light, because y'all know I have to switch KeyMars regularly. But on that level, this bike ride has opened up a door for trainers, like state certified trainers, to come and teach our children inside of the schools for this last couple of days inside of a specific school, and the summer school sessions for them to have training on riding the scooters, riding the bicycles. They're giving out helmets, and they're giving like free rides, and some kids may get bicycles. But then we got to look at equity. All our high schools don't even have bike racks.
Wow.
Sorry, wrong. Right.
Wow.
And so that's the conversation that had to have happened, right? Like, are we promoting health? Are we promoting that something that, like you said, Baba, other communities can take for granted because they have the luxury of using this as just recreation for their well-being, where we have a lot more factors that's in place to accept such a, minor or major, depending on who you're talking to, event. I think it's major.
That's deep. Wow. Violence unfortunately was so prevalent in our community. Folks weren't riding bikes, folks weren't playing football in the streets. Jump roping, playing kickball, right? A lot of these things just were not happening. Riding a bike, because it was too dangerous,
right?
Dangerous to be in the street.
Absolutely. We have other things going on coming out of the Office of Violence Prevention. Like we have ciphers on the corner, right? Where we're going into some of our hotspot targeted populations and having straight freestyle battles. And in the meantime, we're engaging the children. We're engaging in giving them exactly what you're saying. All right, well, here go a jump rope. Anybody know how to play double dutch? Let's get our jump on. Let's figure out how to make our people feel more comfortable in their own spaces, right? Like it's easy for us to say things behind a desk or in an office, but one thing I love so truly about Mayor Baraka and us coming from the trenches is like, nah, come from behind them desks, go to these blocks, go to Orientals,
engage.
Go to the Spires, go hang out with the folks on 15th and 16th, like go be with the people, and that's my specialty, so I love it.
Can folks still double judge and jump French? Can they still do that?
It's usually people in my generation, because 80s babies, we did that. Okay. I don't know what happened after us.
Okay. Because I
still got it.
Yeah, I think some folks struggle with jumping double judge in French. Man, I remember when I was a kid. How many of y'all remember when there was a major double dutch competition? Every year, like they broadcasting, I think, Channel 7 back in the day. It was a major thing, man, but because of conditions.
And we still have some sisters that have double dutch teams.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I know Sister Layla Little, I don't remember the name of hers, but she has a double dutch team, and they do some amazing tricks in the room. It's always a pleasure to see.
Wow, that's dope. That's dope. How about tops? Folks still play tops or not?
I have not seen anybody tip over to play tops in a while.
Wow. No.
Maybe we should get a tops board drawn for the Juneteenth celebration tomorrow on Bergen Street.
That would be dope.
I think people remember how to.
You're gonna make me call a councilman after this. Am I gonna get a ticket for drawing a tops board in the middle of Bergen Street and Mate?
Wow, that's dope. No, I think, listen, Dawn, I think what you're doing is phenomenal. Big shout out to Mayor Baraka's Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery. Again, you know, we're talking to Sister Dawn, one of the co-founders of the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, the former president of the Board of Education, who is now the vice president of the Newark Board of Education. You know, and so many other things you do, but definitely. Oh, and we'll be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that you're one of the leaders in the Brick City Peace Collective, right? And the Brick City Peace Collective, the Newark Community Street Team, and so many other groups and individuals who are helping to reduce, if not stop, violence altogether in the city of Newark, do all their great work out of Mayor Baraka's Office of Violence Prevention, because brother Baraka, Mayor Baraka, it was the founder of the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, and so, you know, when he got into office,
had a clear vision,
clear vision in terms of what he wanted to do on a how can I say this, Bob, on a municipal level, all right, and on a political level, how he could use those positions to create an office for violence prevention and trauma recovery. So yeah, you're right. Big shout out to
We're being mimicked all over. We're being looked at as best practices.
Absolutely.
So the state of New Jersey just created a Office of Violence Prevention. So this,
man, repeat that again, sister. You said what?
Make it plain. That's right.
The city of Newark, honey, has done it again. The state of New Jersey has created an Office of Violence Prevention because we are best practice. And the Brick City Peace Collective. So what it is it's a ecosystem of the grassroots organizations, as well as the schools and their hospitals involved, and they come to the table and see what are the gaps, and they provide funding and technical support and those type of you know, the things that some organizations may be missing, and help support and insulate them. And with the Brick City Peace Collective becoming an official 501c3, and that is looking like more of the financial institution of this work. The Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery, that's the community. So I have two hats there as well. Like, I support on both sides. This work is so rewarding. It's spiritually rewarding, right? Like it to be able to see and help and know that what we're doing is not in vain, knowing that everything we see, we've been held accountable.
And the door is open to the community.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm in the office now. You see my lovely sign, drive like your kids live here. If you need signs, please let me know. Any of these signs you see throughout the community is sponsored by the Brick City Peace Collective, and we want them everywhere. This is how dedicated we are to this work.
Sister Keisha. Folks,
this is how we spend our Friday nights.
I see that. That's our sister, the director
at work
of Mayor Baraka.
It doesn't stop.
Prevention.
For all the good we do, it doesn't stop.
Hello,
Hotep, Sister Keisha.
Hello, Bashir.
Hotep, Madam Director.
Muhammad. All politics are local. Thank you for always bigging us up, always keeping the messages on the forefront and keeping us informed about what's going on. We are always here at your disposal. And so thank you for always keeping the people who are listening aware of what we have going on in the community.
Dope.
I know you got you.
That's what I'm talking about. Oh, that's awesome. Wow. Whew. Awesome. So, you know, we're crushing all the naysayers, even though folks still want to talk. All right. All this office is there. It's on 17th Avenue, right? In fact, let me get the ads. 10
17th Avenue, the former First Precinct, which is a powerful statement all in its own, because the life that we're putting into this building, may our ancestors be pleased because of the lives that was taken in this building.
That's right. That's right.
But you know what is becoming abundantly clear to me, though? I think that, you know, because I'm involved in so many different areas, but I think what's becoming abundantly clear is really how the work that, you and Keisha do, in that building, and all of the folks, that really what people are seeing who are coming to Newark is really because of the work that is being done in that very building, right? So when people look at Newark and they say, wow, this is a beautiful place and it's a safe place, well, they don't understand, one, the work that has already been done, and two, they don't really understand the work that's being done. Because I heard some cat say today that he'd actually went into the West Ward for the first time, but he'd been in Newark for a number of years. But he talked about it like it was some foreign place to have gone into.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, isn't that something?
Yeah.
But he felt comfortable enough to go there for an event because, right, of who was putting it together, you all.
Mm-hmm.
He felt comfortable enough to do that. But that came from the level of respect, right? That people were willing to go in the middle of the street and put their lives on the line.
That's right.
To say to those very people that we love you, we care about you, and we care about your families, right? But remember what the mayor said today. The mayor was saying that, he had some questions about some of the resources that were promised that haven't come through yet. He's questioning that. Like, where's that at? Like, where's all this money that was supposed to come, right?
Well, while we was in Trenton yesterday, Dawn.
Sir? Oh, when we was in Trenton? Yeah, run us our money. Run us our money, because the police cannot take credit for 50 years of crime being down without recognizing that the work that is being done with the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery and all of the organizations associated with the Brick City Peace Collective have done.
Yep.
And so I was blessed to be in that space yesterday and hearing the testimonies of all of the work that's being done throughout the state of New Jersey, knowing that Newark got a leg up because we have a real progressive revolutionary mayor, right? Mm-hmm. So we got a little leg up on our terms, but the state needs to run us our money. You talking about sums of 80 million. I think one sum was like 300,000, like, for this work that we're doing. The first responders, the high-risk interventionalists, are doing more work that is life-staking, just like the police do, and they don't even have like a health insurance.
That's right.
Right? Like run them some money so they could be secure in their spot with health insurance.
Yeah, that's what the mayor said today on the show. He said, where's all the money that was promised? Where's it at? Right?
We don't pledges.
Yeah.
And you talking about some of our partners is doing work that police can never. Yeah. Like, the mediations that happen, like with New Direction, like these are things that are unheard of, that's not acknowledged and respected in other spaces. So the state of New Jersey, run us our money. I think that was the message we all left with yesterday.
Yeah, so don't give us the bullshit accolades without giving us the money, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, they comfortable with doing that to black folks. You're doing such a great job. Keep up the fight, right? Wait a minute, we got liability too, right? We got families, we got responsibility. You guys get to go on vacations. You guys get to feed your families. You guys get pensions. You guys get health care, right? So aren't we entitled to that?
Right.
Right.
Because our lives is on the line the same way.
Right.
We're more welcomed in our community than they are.
Right.
We get more solved and resolved this morning, today. A car just left there with the engine running and everything, and right in front of our building. That meant one or two things: either they was comfortable enough, maybe our building was a reminder because they may have been in here and was like, "Yo, I'm doing something. I got no business. Let me just leave it here safe," or it might have belonged to somebody and they got the call that you better leave that car somewhere safe. Either way it go, our space was a safe space, and that was good enough for me. The safe surrenders that we do, good enough for me. We won't have to keep re-traumatizing our people to get a point across of safety.
Yeah. But again, see, that's why, I mean, when the mayor come on the show, obviously, it's a call to blackness for us, right? Because we have another level of black conversation when the mayor's on, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, I mean, my mantra is let's keep it black, right? And you know, when you amongst your people, you having a different kind of conversation. And so, you know, when people, you know, are doing the work, and we've done this work for free, right? And you all that are in that building now, most people that don't look like us leave at 5 o'clock. They gone, right? And that's based on you know, a time. That's based on a salary, right? What we do is based on love, right? And Bashir, you know this is clear, and so do you, Zaid. All them days, 100 and some odd days out in the middle of the street, there was no money involved.
That's
That
right.
was love.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
155, how many weeks was it, Brother Bashir?
55 straight weeks.
Yeah.
0-degree weather all the way to 105-degree weather.
Right.
With my babies in tow right next to me.
That's right.
So when people who don't want to tell us that, oh, his was coming and it hasn't come, let us tell you what that shit was like, man. Right. And so when I tell a man, you know, I told her, and Zaid, you was on the call last month when I said this to him. I said, oh, let's just forget it and go on and do it. And the man said, no, let's tell them what we did.
That's right.
We want them to know what we did, right? So they can stop playing with the money.
That's
right. So history will be very clear. It's not anybody else's story being told, but ours by us.
I told her, hey, Bashir, I said, well, let's forget it, man. Let's just keep it back. The man said, no, we ain't gonna do that, brother. No, we're gonna tell them, right? We want them to know. And so why you don't tell us the money is coming and don't send it? No, don't do that. Right? We heard you when you said it. Now we want you to deliver it.
Because our organizations are delivering. The Newark Community Street Team, they're delivering. The Hear My Cries, sis in her wheelchair is delivering, right? Like we are doing this work. The accountability of it with the Office of Violence Prevention now, it's not that accountability where you're trying to break people down. We're trying to make sure our people have everything that they need to make their work easier and reporting metrics done correctly. Because what we don't need is for them to find a reason, to create a reason, to create a new rule for us to have broken unknowingly.
That's right.
Let us do what we know how to do correctly and help our people the best way we can. Because ain't nobody gonna help us the way we gonna help ourselves. Nobody. We ain't waiting for no superhero, no white savior. We ain't waiting for that.
He ain't coming anyway, right? Ain't nobody gonna save us but us.
That's
you
right.
muted. Yeah.
Yesterday,
we're not gonna wait for a mystery God to make it happen. We're gonna make it ourselves. Sister Dawn, before you leave, please, could you let the community know what the program you're launching for Newark will be about again?
Oh, it is the Light Up the City Bike Ride for Peace, sponsored by the Brick City Peace Collective and hosted by the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery.
All right.
So
all right.
On next Wednesday. Down between 5 and 7. Kickstands up at 7 o'clock. Get your ride on. Come on down with us.
That's what's up. All right. Now, Sister Dawn, you can stay if you want, right, E? You know, but I gotta ask the hip hop question, you know, and I know you've asked Sister Dawn, you brothers have asked Sister Dawn over and over, who's your favorite artist? I gotta come with something new. What you vibing with now? What's moving your consciousness now in terms of?
Well, in all honesty, like the sisters before me, I kind of took a break from the music only because it hasn't been touching me the same way. I'm getting ready for the Erykah Badu concert. Okay. So Erykah's been in my play, and I will go like, hey, Pandora Radio, Lovely Day. So that's that genre and that generation. Right. So it's like 70s, 60s, late 60s, 70s music. I'm an old lady at heart, but that's what I've been rocking to.
Old soul.
You know what? Baba Zaid, Ed, I think I see a future show, man, about hip hop, the 50 years of existence, but is hip hop on a decline? Because I'm starting to see some folks discuss these things online now. You know, I saw a post a brother gave a long analysis of hip hop, and he said hip hop may go out the way disco did. I said, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can see that because I mean the music is, and I feel bad because our kids are so tuned into it, but this drill music, this trap music, this
that's what
bucket music, like
that's
I
what
can't get jiggy with every other word I'm talking about, what I'm doing explicitly with my mouth and my body parts. It's low vibration.
And that's what the person said on the post. He mentioned all the stuff that the violence, the drugs, the over sexuality of the music is dynamite. In fact, he even listed an article, right, that talked about that the top, the Billboard Top 100 has no rap artists there anymore.
You see it?
Yeah.
It's like the gangster rap music made everybody niggas and dogs, and in the meantime it made us female dogs and hoes. So I'm like, that's not the vibe I'm in these days.
Yeah, no, I mean it's serious. I mean, I'm just kind of seeing a future show, family, and maybe that need to be discussed. And you have our brother Hakeem Green come on and
good job.
have a a deep discussion about, because it was his post. He had put up a thing about hip hop, and people were chiming in. One, like I said, I just read one person, and they were talking about hip hop may go out like disco, and he was listing those things. He was like, it's violent. It's just an oversaturation of violence, drugs, the sexuality. Is like, okay, he used the term America. He said America's done with it. It's like it's not cool, anymore.
They done brought us to our lowest.
And it won't necessarily be, I think, because of something that we've done consciously. I think it's something that's been done to the music unconsciously, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that the young brothers and sisters who are now, berating those folks who came before them, right? Like, I heard some young rapper who said that LL Cool J is garbage.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for somebody to say that is to to negate all of the great records that brother made, and and to say that about him is just absolutely incredible, because you wouldn't even be in the music business had not it been for somebody like an LL Cool J, right? So you're right, but that's why I think the mayor says that when we ask him what is he rocking, he always says, I'm an old man, so I'm into this old school stuff. I'm still listening to all of this old stuff, right? Why? Because the music then had some sort of substance to it, right? Has some level of consciousness to it. And that's why I said earlier, Dawn, to the other folks, that's why I refuse to use, and I say this to the mayor all the time, I refuse to use these words I call woke, right? Because that's bullshit to me, right? Because this word woke doesn't denote give me the level of consciousness that these young people need to have. You're not aware of what's being done to you. Now, Elijah Muhammad called it subliminal seduction, right? He said you listening to the song, but they programming you to hate yourself, right? And you remember, Bashir, we've had this conversation, man. We used to have it all the time, right? About you can change the condition of a people if you just learn the consciousness of yourself. Just learn your black self, learn who you are.
Yeah.
But how you gonna learn that if the music you listening to is degrading you? How you gonna do that?
Well, hip hop, it's been under attack. Real hip hop. I'm saying it's been under attack.
It's our culture.
It's been
respect our elders. If you can say, if a younger artist can say anything about LL, I've read something somebody said about Tupac. Like, how dare you? How dare you?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's under attack. It's right, and it's been under attack. I mean, they work to co-opt it.
Of course, today's Bach's birthday,
and we'll end with that. Talk about that. Zaid, let's end the show with that. Talk about his birthday on Monday, because the mayor was giving some directive on how he thought we should celebrate his birthday Monday, man.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I look forward to hearing that.
Yeah,
so you may have to lift that up. But I'm trying to get some of my comrades who, like Jamal Joseph and some of the and Brother Watani and them to come on to talk about you know, Tupac that they helped raise, right, and protect and as much as they could, you know, and fill in any gaps that may have existed with the documentary, right? So yeah, there's so much to lift up. There's so much to lift up. The boy literally born in the, you know, mother on trial for her life, right? In the jail cell every damn day, right? Defended herself in court. And that's the baptism of fire that he was born in, and lived a carrier of that fire all of his 25 years. This, you know, it's just wrap your head around. We are talking about hip hop more talking about Tupac Shakur more years than he actually lived on this earth.
Mm.
Yeah, that's right.
He was indeed the person on the cover of the Black Panther Party, without a doubt.
Well, listen, y'all, we at the end of the show, so I'm gonna go around, give y'all an opportunity to say some final things, and then we'll close the show. So let you go first, Bashir.
Oh man, I was just trying to pull up my flyer. Okay, I got it. Bam. All right. Hey, listen, it's been an honor to be a guest co-host. All right. Just a little fatigued because, you know, earlier today we celebrated Juneteenth at Weekway High School, right? That's our second year. We started last year. It was our second year. Did a great job. The students did a great job, you know, just honoring our ancestors and celebrating Freedom Day, no doubt, Juneteenth. But on Monday, June 9th, there's going to be a national Zoom telecast on Juneteenth and reparations. Baba Small is doing a presentation. I'm doing a presentation. My presentation is white supremacy and the movement for reparations. So we all have to do Google slide presentations. That's my presentation. But there are many of us from Jersey to California all day doing presentations. All right. And this Juneteenth reparation virtual teaching is sponsored by the new Black Panther Party. All right. Under the direction of
Crystal. Yes.
Yes. Yep. Monday, June 19th.
Charles Barron on. We won't be in the streets, so I couldn't get on. And I got a Charles Barron. Yes.
All day from 9 to 9.
9 to 9, right?
Yeah, 9 to 9 from from Jersey to California. Folk are going to be doing teachings on Juneteenth and reparations. It's a Juneteenth reparations virtual teaching. All right, and then tomorrow I'm doing libation for the Juneteenth celebration on Bergen Street in the Weekway section in the South Ward, sponsored by our brother South Ward Councilman Pat Council. All right, so come check us out. Come check us out all day. It's gonna be not every day, but it's gonna be the whole day. Saturday from Lions all the way down to Nye, I believe. The whole Bergen Street gonna be shut down.
Bergen Street
celebrate Juneteenth.
Used to be quite big. I'm glad to see it back in effect.
And we got to give a big shout out to K Boog. He pioneered it. He pioneered Juneteenth. Yes. One of the pioneers of Juneteenth. And Baba Zai, I always got to give a shout out to Queen Mother Moore, man. I do. I got to give, she was out there, man, many years fighting for reparations, and others, but
from Garvey to the Million Man March.
Yes, absolutely.
It was a long, mighty walk.
Absolutely.
There's a sister, Ashley Farmer, who I've been talking to, who has a biography coming out on her, and we'll get Ashley on the show. Right. She was actually supposed to come on a few weeks ago, but she had a schedule conflict at the last minute. She's got a book coming out on the great Queen Mother Moore.
Oh wow, man, I'm looking forward to reading that, man. And big shout out to N-Cobra. Big shout out to N-Cobra.
Their national conference is the weekend of the 25th.
Absolutely. Oakland. Big shout out. These are some of the early pioneers of the reparations movement. Big shout out. And we can't forget Randall Robinson, another one.
Yeah.
He's an ancestor now. Ibai Ashe to the brother, but he was on the battlefield fighting for reparations for Black people in America. You know.
And Dawn, we're going to give you an opportunity
Yes.
to repeat again the bike thing.
Oh, okay. Light Up the City for Peace bike ride on June 21st. Kickstands go up at 7:30. Meeting at 10 17th Avenue, the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery Center, formerly known as the First Precinct. We're looking forward to it. And everybody is welcomed. Everybody is welcomed. Even if you're not like the top athlete, is fine. The police is escorting to make sure that everyone is safe. So I look forward to it. There's so many other things going on in our city. The Source of Knowledge is also having a Juneteenth event.
Oh yeah, I'll be opening up for that.
Yes.
Up sick. My mother will be there selling her sea moss drink, so make sure you stop by, get your sea moss on. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention today I had the pleasure of sitting with Dr. Wesley Muhammad. He came and did a presentation for the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery, and it was phenomenal. And I'm being awarded by an organization associated with them tomorrow, so I'm excited.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Next.
New brother Zaid.
I mentioned I'll be opening it for the Source of Knowledge in their Juneteenth celebration with in my Bible role doing the libation. I'll be spending some moments a lot later on in the day with the returning citizen support group. I don't know if we've had them on yet. Brother Chino and then the work, and then Brother Al Tariq Witcher and the work that they have been doing. Great work. I'll be spending a few minutes with them. But of course, you know, Monday is Juneteenth, and in Newark, you know, there's no Juneteenth without the call for reparations. Monday morning, we will be at Port Perth Amboy, one of the two ports by which our ancestors were imported into this country, into this state as chattel, right? We're going to lift those ancestors up and make this new call for our own community-based reparations commission that our guest Ryan Haygood just lifted up very artfully with the New Jersey Institute of Social Justice. So say the word: reparations. They stole us. They sold us. They owe us.
No doubt. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so for me, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in again, of course, to All Politics Are Local. We call it America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. We're not new to this. We're true to this. We've been doing this for 15 years now, right? So in any other world, they would call you a veteran, right? So we're no longer amateurs. We considered the veterans of this game. We beat the drum. I told Zaid as we premiere, as we get ready to make some major moves with this show. I told Zaid the other day, I told him that, you know, the only voice that speaks in Newark is this one, right? So if you're doing something in Newark and we know about it, you hear, right? If you claim you're doing something in Newark and we don't know about it, you ain't doing it, right? So this is what we do. So we want to thank, of course, the mayor for coming through today to do his show called The Mayor's Forum. We appreciate his contribution. We also want to thank Ryan Haygood. I can't say them two sisters' names. Do you want to say their names?
Maati Sekmet Ra from the Trenton Anti-Violence Coalition, and Atalaya Armstrong. Atalaya scared him to death. She almost won an election down there. Right? Atalaya is also in the People's Organization for Progress. She's also a pot member too. Quiet as kept. Yeah.
We want to thank both of them
down there.
Yep. So we thank both of them sisters, and then of course we thank Dawn for coming on and sharing the information. Of course, she's our family. She's our beloved little sister. We love her to life. There ain't nothing we wouldn't do, or no place we wouldn't go. There ain't no mountain high enough and no river low enough that we wouldn't go, right? So we roll with you. And then, of course, my brother Bashir, my brother, right?
And we bringing and we waging war against Arab racism.
Yeah, that's right.
We waging war against Arab racism. Big shout out to Dennis Imhotep Boatwright III. He called all of us together from Jersey to California, ASCAT, Temple of Ma'at.
Turn it up. Turn it up.
So many brothers and sisters. We are waging war against white supremacy and Arab racism, and definitely against Dr. Zahi Hawass. He has to go.
And so I just wanted to say thank you to Bashir for coming through and sitting in for Brother Zaid today. And, you know, he fell back in doing exactly what he know how to do, you know, and, you know, so we got to be this age because of, you know, all of us. It wasn't just me. It was Bashir. It was John who carried this light. And so it's what we do. So thank you, B, for coming in and not thinking it robbery when I called on you to sit in for Zai, man. Appreciate it, my brother. So love all of y'all. And Zaid, thank you for jumping on. Thank y'all for doing the show. So we'll see y'all next time. Same place. And as my brother Zaid always says, we'll see y'all next week. Where's I?
In the whirlwind.
We'll catch him in the world.
That's right.
And
Uncle Justin. Peace.